What is up, everybody? Good afternoon. Happy 4th of July. More importantly, it's the day before my birthday. I'm just kidding. Um, Today I am here with our favorite chat reader. That is what his name is. Okay.
What's up, you guys? It's your favorite chat reader. Yep, that's my name.
His name is.
It's me back again after a little bit of a hiatus. Yep, our favorite chat reader.
So today we're just gonna have kind of a chill stream. I do have some announcements to make though, and I'm gonna just go ahead and make them right now. What, is there a problem?
No, we're good. I just lagged out a little bit initially, but we're fine.
Okay. So anyway, guys, we're just gonna be making a couple announcements today. We're gonna have a chill stream. I'm gonna talk about some video ideas I had. You guys might actually witness me talking about some of those topics right now on stream and kind of just make those videos live and clip them later. But let me just make sure on YouTube's end that everything is going good.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go ahead and
find
pull
it
up my
here.
phone and
Cook up. Happy 4th of July to those who like to
Axel's Universe says hello.
themselves in
What's up,
that.
Axel's Universe guy?
Oh, yep, I see that. What's up, Axel's Universe guy?
Darkchild404 says, "Can you call me? It's important after the stream." Depends on the matter.
Pens.
Okay. So everything appears to be in order.
Islam
That
God Answer
means-
says, I forgot it's my birthday today.
It's actually not your birthday today. It's your birthday tomorrow. It's your birthday tomorrow. That is to say, it's my birthday tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right. So, start off with the announcements. First and foremost, our favorite chat reader is making a return to
What's
YouTube.
up?
He's making a comeback.
Yep.
He is coming back on his own channel. He's gonna start posting.
Strong.
For a while there, I used it kind of for my own second channel purposes. But he will be making a comeback and he will be posting on his own channel again. He's keeping the Metal Crusaders name though, I think, because it's cool. It's a cool name.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a bad name, dude. There's no way you can't keep that.
Yeah. Also,
Metal Crusaders is based.
I will also still be using it as a second channel anyway. So like alongside whatever he's posting,
yeah.
I will also post whenever I see fit to post. So that's my first announcement. My second announcement is actually that we are going to be rebranding the channel live right now. Like, you guys are gonna watch this happen. Now I don't have my system audio shared, so you guys can't listen to that. Which is actually probably for the best because I don't think speech needs to be present for this. But this is what we're gonna do. So we are at the
Dark Child says, it's a matter that I can't tell you over a stream. You need to call me. Axel's Universe says, you know, you don't get a birthday. You were made out of Legos. That's comedic.
I was made out of Legos.
My boy got out the game like Jordan, but he's coming back. W.
So true. So true.
Real.
Okay. So I will inform my mother
It's great to be back,
that I
James.
was apparently made out of Legos and that whatever she experienced 18 years ago did not actually take place.
Didn't happen.
I will inform her of that. I think she'll be very surprised to learn.
The painful labor.
Yeah.
Yes, just didn't
All
happen.
right. So
As it was decreed a while ago.
So, the new name, guys. This is the new name. I'm typing it right now. I am rebranding this channel to be called
Yeah, Dark Child, I think your
Christendom
matter is gonna have to wait.
Strategist. That's the new name, chatters.
Hell yeah. Christendom Strategist, that's my boy.
Strategist is base, okay?
That's
We're also going to be
based.
changing the handle to Christendom Strategist.
That's awesome.
And I'm going to be changing the channel description later.
I think you should also change your name to that on Twitter, to be honest.
I will change my @ to that because I think that my Twitter, the display name for it is Fernando with the Vatican City flag. I think that's fine.
No, that's fine. That's base.
That's fire.
That's cool.
But I'm going to be changing the @ for it though.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm changing to Christendom Strategist.
By
the way, this does not signify a change in content style in any way. By the way. I'm still going to be producing the same kinds of content that I have been for a while. It's just a name change because I think it sounds cooler, and I think it's a part of this channel is supposed to be that it's supposed to be explicitly Catholic. The term Christendom is explicitly Catholic. It has its origins in Catholicism. Christendom Strategist kind of it better represents honestly what I'm doing because the aim of this channel is to promote Catholic thought and analyze things through a Catholic lens, whether that's politics or current events or philosophy or whatever it may be. So I think Christendom Strategist works better for that purpose.
Islam God Answer says, as a non-Christian, can't lie, that name go hard. It kind of does.
Yeah, Christendom Strategist is a cool name. That's also my Discord. If you guys
I'm a Protestant, and still that goes hard.
Christendom Strategist is cool. So I'm going to be changing the channel description later. There's going to be a quote that I'm going to paste into my bio, and it comes from this document called the Compendium of the Social Doctrine of the Church. And it basically says that it's very base. It basically says that the Catholic Church has the right to proclaim the gospel in every aspect of society. Something to that effect.
Damn, that's based.
And it says that it has the right and the duty to do so. So I'm going to be putting that in my bio. Apparently I have a business email in here too, so I'm going to be deleting that because I don't even use it.
Darkchild says that's a great change. That's a great name change. I'm surprised you didn't change it a bit sooner. Well, name changes. Listen, bro. Name changes come when they come, bro. I went from Blind Tech Productions to Metal Crusaders. So.
Well, that wasn't really you. That was me who did
that. Yeah.
Okay, so
but that was an upgrade though, because that name kind of sucked.
Apparently, I still have the old Twitter URL that leads to BG_Studio0. It's very, very old name that
pretty old.
So I'm going to go to my profile, and I'm going to change that right now.
What about Christian World? Says Islam God Answers.
What about Christian World?
No, what about it?
I'm not calling my channel Christian World. Okay, change. So it might take a little bit for this to actually take effect. It might take a little while for this to actually take effect, but that is the channel now, guys. Christendom Strategist.
W.
I think it is more clear as to what the channel's purpose actually is. Let me check the chat, guys. Why are there like emoticons on this nonsense chat? No emoticons, chatters. Okay, so we got the channel changed. I've announced that our favorite chat reader will be returning to YouTube. What else do I got for you guys? So, I apologize for my absence over the last month or so. It was not for lack of ideas. As a matter of fact, I have plenty of ideas, which I kind of want y'all's thoughts on. So, one of the videos that I was going to make was about why I became an atheist briefly for a time. Those of you guys who know me know that for a couple years I was not some Catholic crusader, Christendom strategist guy. I was actually an atheist. Okay, that's my origin story. And I kind of want to go into why that is, because I think that there's two reasons for it, and I think that those reasons should probably be addressed within religious communities, specifically, I would say the Catholic Church, because it has the tools to do it. I think that those two things need to be addressed if they want to prevent that kind of thing from happening in the future. So that was one of the ideas that I had. Let me check the chat, see if I get anything, guys. Axel's Universe says, Yale, I thought you were Catholic. No, he's not Catholic. He's like, honestly, I think the description that I would use for him is like reluctantly Protestant or like nominally Protestant. Because he seems to have like his own issues with Protestantism. I mean, I don't want to speak for him. He can obviously speak for himself, although he's muted right now, it looks like. But that's how I would characterize it. Okay, for some reason I still have my my YouTube studio thing open, so I'm gonna close that for now. All right. Can't believe I had to take over this man's duties at the moment because he is currently cooked. Bit of thought-provoking topic. What did I just say? Bit of a thought-provoking topic, but what are your thoughts on the Vatican II dispute? Okay. So, if anybody doesn't know what the Vatican II dispute is, the Vatican II dispute is a discussion, a discourse over a passage that is found in one of the documents that was promulgated in the Second Vatican Council, which was like a council of the Catholic Church. And the passage in question, what it says is that Christians and Muslims adore the same God. I can find the actual passage in question. I think it's in the document Lumen Gentium. So I'm gonna see if I can actually.
Sorry about that, chatters.
Find that.
I'm back.
Yeah, I was reading some of the chats. It looks like there's some stuff for you to address.
Still progressing forward in my sort of Catholic journey. I'm not sure anyone would consider me an official Catholic, but I stand with the church if that makes sense.
Okay, so the document in question is the Lumen Gentium.
And yeah, as he said, I do have certain issues with the Protestant denomination I'm affiliated in by family. It's Pentecostalism. Got a few issues with it, but well, that's a bit beyond the scope of this. Just a couple agreements, things that I don't believe make sense. and the like.
Okay, so you can like address the chat while I find the relevant passage because I'm being asked my opinion on a passage in the Second Vatican Council.
I got you.
Okay. Alright, where is this? I think it's like paragraph 16 or something, so I'm gonna have to scroll and scroll. Apologize, guys.
You should use a NVDA plus F3 to find text quickly.
Oh, okay. That would have actually been very helpful. Oh, I found a chat. Okay, so the relevant passage says this, quote, "But the plan of salvation also includes those who acknowledge the Creator. In the first place, amongst these, there are the Muslims, who, professing to hold the faith of Abraham, along with us, adore the one and merciful God who on the last day will judge mankind." Okay. So this passage has been a subject of controversy for as long as it's existed. Like, literally, as long as this has been out, and this has been out for like 60 plus years at this point, it's been a subject of controversy because it appears to be read in a way that could maybe affirm Islamic theology or something like that, which that's not what it does. The people who are against this passage, they're basically, their objections boil down to, oh, but we have different theology than the Muslims. They don't worship the Trinity, therefore they don't worship the same God. They have varying beliefs about even some of the attributes of God. Therefore they don't worship the same God. And I think that's silly. I think that's silly reasoning. I think that this is not a problem. Like, you don't have to drift into some kind of stupid pluralism because of this kinds of passages. Now, I understand that the term, like, Muslims worship the same God can be ambiguous and could sound as if it is affirming that, but it doesn't actually affirm that. So that's what I would say about that. I think... Go ahead.
Go ahead. Axel's Universe says, same thing here. My family is Pentecostal, but I've silently disassociated myself with them. Yep, real. Islam God Answer says, I'm not fully caught up on the dispute, but it's still interesting.
Okay.
The dispute and the arguments, rather.
Yeah, the dispute is kind of silly because the people who are attacking this are like anti-Catholics who want to fall. So what it is, it's like anti-Catholic Eastern Orthodox guys who are making these arguments. And it's also super zealously anti-Islam Protestants who are saying that. Now, I don't really have a problem with being zealously anti-Islam. What I have a problem with is when it causes you to fall into your own theological errors. That's when I have a problem with it. If you are so vehemently anti-Islam that you are willing to reject things like natural theology, which affirms that even though other people may not have full knowledge of divine revelation, they are still able to offer worship to the same creator, then you kind of lost the plot, in my opinion. That's what I think about that. I think that, like, if it is possible for other people who are not even Christians to offer worship nevertheless to the Christian God, even if they don't understand him and his attributes and the fact that he's trying and stuff like that, then there's no problem with saying something like the Muslims um, adore the same God. And I think the key word here in this passage is it says that the Muslims profess to hold the faith of Abraham, right? It doesn't actually say that they do. It just says that that's what they claim to do. Um, I think that's an important distinction to make too.
Pretty cool.
The song answer says one of the compelling points Trent made is that Justin Martyr is saying truthfully that Jews worship the same God as him. Yeah, I think that if you're gonna say something like the Muslims don't worship the same God, then you're gonna have to say the Jews don't either, because all of the arguments that you can posit in favor of the hypothesis that they don't worship the same God are the same arguments that could be used against Jews, because the Jews don't affirm a Trinity either. And yet nobody except for radicals says that they don't worship the same God as we do. They're just very mistaken about his identity and his attributes.
Yeah. Monitoring the chat here. Nothing so far. He got the last one.
Okay. So that basically sums up my thoughts on the Vatican II thing. I think that there has been some like priests and stuff on Twitter mostly and other places that I've seen saying that if you're super zealously against this proposition, then you could fall into some kind of tritheism, which is not Trinitarianism. Tritheism is its own thing. Tritheism is an error. Okay, so that said, I was going to talk about some of the ideas that I had. So one of those, like I said, was to explain why I was briefly an atheist for a while. Another one I was going to make on June 25th. The date is significant because June 24th was the day, June 24th, 2022, I think, the day that Roe v. Wade was overturned. Now, if you guys don't know what that is, that was the Supreme Court ruling that legalized abortion on the federal level and said states can no longer, make it illegal and they can't do their own laws, heavily regulating it. Right? That's what Roe v. Wade was. And the date was significant because in our church, June 24th is what we call the Nativity of John the Baptist. So that's when we believe, I think, John the Baptist was born. The story of John the Baptist is significant because if you recall, if you know the Gospel of Luke, it says that when actually, I'm going to pull this up so I don't mischaracterize my own stuff. How embarrassing would that be?
Yeah, it wouldn't go over too well.
How embarrassing would that be if I mischaracterized my own gospel readings?
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Let's keep going. Okay. So this is the part of the Gospel of Luke. It starts at chapter 1, verse 39. It says, quote, "At that time, Mary got ready and hurried to a town in the hill country of Judea, where she entered Zachariah's home and greeted Elizabeth. When Elizabeth heard and Elizabeth is the mother of John the Baptist, said, when Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the baby leaped in her womb, and Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit. Okay, so why that matters, why that's significant, is because it seems to demonstrate that children in the womb, contrary to popular belief, actually, first of all, matter, and second of all, have some kind of awareness and consciousness as to what is going on. And so, obviously, this is very strong for the pro-life position. So I think there is something kind of providential in the fact that Roe v. Wade, which is a demonic, satanic ruling, was overturned on that date.
Yeah, that's base.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I knew about that, but I didn't realize how that.
I mean, everybody knows about the passage, right?
Oh yeah.
But
I didn't realize that connection to Roe v. Wade. That was cool.
Yeah, there's really a connection in the date that it was overturned and the nativity of John the Baptist, which is pretty cool, pretty base. And it devastates a whole bunch of pro-choice, quote, Christians. And also just pro, quote, choice people in general.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do we have anything? He says, quote, another pro-life passage I use a lot is Luke 20:37 to 38 and Psalm 22:10.
Oh, shit.
So Luke 20:37 is the one where Christ says that God is not the God of the dead, but of the living, right? That's Luke 20:37, I believe. Oh, also, another one of the ideas that I had, and this is kind of an idea for a series, where I go through Catholic Encyclopedia and some other sources, and cover the cardinal sins as well as the cardinal virtues. Because if you're not aware, in Catholic theology, there are distinctions between sins, distinctions between behaviors, righteous behaviors, which we would call virtues, vices, which are like, species of sins and ways that they manifest and things like that. So that would include things such as gluttony and greed, despair also. That's one that I didn't actually know about until very recently. There is such a thing as the sin of despair, the sin of presumption. So there's like a whole bunch of things that unfortunately a lot of Christians, because they come from like lower church Protestantism, they don't actually know about these things. They don't know about the virtue tradition. They don't know about any of that, which is very unfortunate because virtue ethics are very important to us in Catholicism. And we, from our perspective, think that they are very, useful to keep in mind if you want to live an actually righteous and virtuous life, right? That's what we'd say about it. So my goal would be to cover these sins, explain them, debunk misconceptions about them, explain what their counter virtues are, and things like that. So that would be a series. I think I'm going to start with the sin of despair, because I've seen it a lot, actually, even around me. And I don't think people realize that it's problematic. And also, it is not an emotion. It cannot be equated with like depression or something like that. It is not an emotion. It is rather an attitude, a disposition, and an action. That is what the sin of despair is. Why are the emoticons things popping up on my phone, Chad? That needs to stop right now.
It's annoying.
Yeah, it is. It's very annoying.
You got the chat about the other pro-life passages, Luke 27.
2037 and 2210.
Mm-hmm. And Psalm 22:10.
Yeah.
Oh. So, like, the world should die emo type nonsense.
Well, I mean, kind of. So, like this, I will give like a brief explanation of what the sin of despair is. The sin of despair is having the attitude that you are beyond saving, that you are bound for hell, that God kind of has turned his back on you and abandoned you. So there's no point in even persisting in the spiritual path because whatever reason you may have come up with. And so you stop doing things like receiving the sacraments, and you stop attending mass, you stop praying, you stop doing things like that because basically your view is, oh, well, why should I even do that kind of thing? Because God has abandoned me, God no longer cares, or God cannot save me because I've done too much. That is what the sin of despair is. And I see this, unfortunately, manifested in people saying things like, there's no way I could ever go to heaven. I'm going to go to hell for sure. As if that's something that's predestined that you can't change. Now, to the whole thing about like, I hope the world dies. I wish we could destroy the world. Like that all that ridiculous nonsense. I would just call that like, I would honestly just call that Luciferian attitude and behavior.
Yeah. He says, oh, we agree with this, and then we can never affirm that for God.
Yeah. And that's why, like, and there has to be a distinction made between like some kind of mental illness that affects your emotions, like anxiety or depression or whatever, and the sin of despair, which is not an emotion. It's rather choosing to no longer pursue anything spiritual because you have come to the conclusion, despite evidence to the contrary, by the way, that God just simply no longer cares.
Nice.
So yeah, that's the sin of despair. Also, the other one that I was going to talk about, which is basically its counter, its opposite, is the sin of presumption. The sin of presumption is presuming that you are definitely going to be saved, and therefore you can do whatever you like because, oh, you know, I'll just go and go to confession later, and I'll just have it all fixed, and so therefore I can test God's mercy and act as if I take it for granted, and it's basically just a form of pride, right? That's the opposite of sin of despair. So both of these are problematic behaviors. And again, there's a lot of resources on this in like the Catholic Encyclopedia and other sources that I can cover and read from and simplify because these are kind of complicated sources. And that's kind of a series that I'm going to start, or that I'm wanting to start. Also, I just realized that I forgot to put the link in the description
Oh
for people
shit!
to join.
Forgot to tell you about that. My bad, chatters.
Okay, I will update it. All right. If you guys want to join, you are more than welcome to. I will not be letting in anybody that I don't know, though.
Yeah.
Check the description.
Best not to. Trying to liberate the cafe. Holy shit.
Yeah, he's playing a game in the background, guys.
Whoa.
He might review it in the future. I don't know.
I just might actually. It's a pretty based game, not gonna lie.
Alright.
Fuck.
He got cooked.
I got killed.
Devastated.
Got a little bit macheted.
Like I said, guys,
It's alright.
you are more than welcome to join the stream. You are able to do it by checking the description. I'm also going to put it in the chat, too. You guys can talk about whatever it is you guys want.
I should have asked you for it so I could paste it in the chat.
Let me go ahead and paste this.
Again, no oversight. Alright, no new chats.
Stop with the stupid pop-ups, bro.
Real. Quit your nonsense. Whoa, shit. Oh, it's this guy.
Okay. So that's in the chat now. Let's see, what else did I have for you guys? So one of the things that I was going to make, like I said, is why did I become an atheist? And what would have prevented that from happening? So there's kind of two reasons why that happened. First, because I think we've all kind of gone through this phase at some point,
Oh yeah.
is that I believed it was completely irrational, blind faith nonsense, right? I did not know, I was not informed that actually this blind faith sort of, we just kind of believe because we believe, or things like, we're just inspired to believe by something like the Holy Spirit or whatever. This is actually a condemned proposition in the Catholic Church. I did not know that. No one ever told me that. There's a lot of things that I was actually never informed about regarding Catholic tradition, even though I am a Catholic and I grew up a Catholic. But I did not know, and I think it would have benefited me a lot to know, that it's actually a condemned proposition. It's actually right here in Vatican I. It says, quote, if anyone, and this is one of the canons of the First Vatican Council, it says, quote, if anyone says that the one true God, our Creator and Lord, cannot be known with certainty from the things that have been made and by the light of human reason, let him be anathema. That's what it says. So what this means is that if you are somebody who is in the Catholic Church who says things like, we can't come to the conclusion that God exists via reason, you are not in the Catholic Church. You are anathema. You are a heretic. I did not know that. Now here's the third, this is from the third section here, and it's also the third canon. It says, quote, if anyone says that divine revelation cannot be made credible by external signs, and that therefore men and women ought to be moved to faith only by each one's internal experience or private inspiration, let him be anathema. That's what it says. Okay? Now, no one ever told me that these things existed. No one ever told me that this like, oh, we just let's all just believe whatever we believe because it can't actually be proven via anything concrete. That's a condemned proposition. Not only is it discouraged, it's a condemned proposition. You are a heretic if you assert things such as that. Which is somebody like me who operates, I'd say I operate for the most part with rationality first. And I will absolutely not accept anything that anyone says like, oh, you just need to believe this or you just need to trust me. Especially not in matters of religion. It would have been very helpful for me to know that these were condemned propositions and not just like discouraged. Now, I think it's very sad that there are certain Christian denominations that like they don't know any of these things. They don't have a First Vatican Council. They don't have any of the tradition. So if they get told you just need to believe whatever you hear from us because we have some kind of pathway with the divine, or oh, it's just all about private inspiration, they don't have any recourse to Vatican I. They don't have a recourse to any kind of tradition, which is very unfortunate. Raging Emo Kid would like to join the stream, chat.
No way.
I know
Raging
it's
Emo
coming
Kid.
I like Cannibal Corpse.
What's up, bro?
I like the new song. I'm not gonna repeat it here, but
That's awesome.
no, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's
That's
not.
crazy.
What do you think of the name, Chatters?
Raging Emo Kid.
That's W.
I think this, like, you were talking about the sin of despair and the sin of presumption. Like, this whole thing about God will never forgive, or God will never save.
Yeah,
Like-
and also people go as far as to say that he cannot, which
What?
is, in our opinion, blasphemous.
Absolutely
To
blasphemous.
Deny that something is within God's power.
In our
Oh.
paradigm, that might just make you a kafir if you affirm he can't do that.
He cannot. I think, properly speaking, you'd probably be a heretic if you said that God cannot do that. It is not by cannot meaning it is not within his power to do a certain thing, unless you're talking about like violating laws of logic or something like that.
Obviously, we
And
don't
even
disagree.
then, we would say that's because logic is kind of like a reflection of the mind of God and how God's mind actually operates. So it operates with order and structure and internal logic, and that our logic is kind of like a mirror of that. So that's the only reason why we would say that there is no contradiction within God or anything of the sort.
Obviously not. You know, we also affirm something interesting. We actually are not allowed to say that God cannot forgive or save others who are doing sins. Like, if you see someone who's a sinner and who's done like really, really, really bad sins, you can never say like God will never forgive you or He can never forgive you. Like, this is
Yeah, we cannot say things like God will not forgive you or God hates you or anything
we can't say
anywhere
that.
remotely close to that.
Definitely not.
Because you're presuming to know the mind of God, which you obviously do not. And that's blasphemous.
Obviously.
No new chats so far.
Who else is watching the stream?
Axel was watching. I think he might.
Oh,
No.
Axel's
Axel,
watching. Yeah.
probably.
I did have a question. Oh yeah, so BTP, you're making a comeback. So
Right.
what are you gonna post?
Well, I plan on doing some book reviews, maybe some, compilations of some bass music I like. stuff like that.
Ooh, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might put out
See what's
some
up.
like tech stuff as well.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Definitely gonna
Nice.
improve my format though, because before it was kind of it was fucking terrible.
Y'all are fucking
I
weird.
can't even lie.
Y'all are fucking weird.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember that was during Pride Month, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It was, yes.
It was like no. It was on the 23rd of May. The funny thing about that is the stream is
Oh, it was like
that
close
I threw,
to it.
yeah. I threw like a whole like fake ass temper tantrum because because I didn't have enough cards for the buff unholy DK or whatever.
Oh.
Pride, yeah.
Yeah,
You know, I would have
Yeah,
covered
yeah.
Pride Month stuff this year, but Pride
Y'all
Month
are
kind of
fucking
died
weird.
this year.
It kind of did.
I'm not gonna
kinda
lie,
good, though.
Prime Pride Month content was like 2 years ago, bro.
Pride Month kind of died this year, dude. Pride Month is like, no one actually cares about Pride Month this year at all. Which is good, right?
That's
But-
good, yeah.
But it's like, no one cares. You know, the government did something actually very base. There was some ship that they named after some, like, degenerate sodomite activist or whatever.
Sodomite activist.
That's what I'm going
Hell
to be
no.
calling these guys, okay?
That's
Because that's what we
SW,
call
I must say.
that's the classical
awesome.
like terminology for them, okay? So like some sodomite dude, his name was Harvey Milk, had a ship named after him, and they changed the name of it in June on the first day of Pride Month.
Oh,
Yo.
Which I'm like,
I
that's
could just
awesome,
imagine,
bro.
like, when you say sodomite activist, I could just imagine, like, one of the early figures in patristics, like Irenaeus or Hippolytus, like, having, like, a modern day against heresies, and, like, they have a whole, like, book on just these guys, and it's over, like,
Sodomites?
sodomite activists and
Sodomite
rectal
activists.
enthusiasts,
That's
these
awesome.
kind of things. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
It's insane.
Honestly,
dude.
the only like Pride Month content that I produced was on my Twitter, and I tweeted something like somebody tweeted saying this is the last day of Pride Month, and it was like meant to be framed as if this was bad or something, and I requoted that, and I said something to the effect of, "Good, we do not need to be dedicating a whole month to sodomy and the sin of Lucifer, which is pride."
That's based. Sodomy.
Like sodomy and the sin of Lucifer. And luckily Twitter's in a place where I can actually say things like that and not get cooked.
Yeah, you're getting canceled because everyone views you as a Christian bigot.
What'd you say?
Yeah, you're getting canceled because everyone views you as a Christian bigot.
Well,
Cancel culture street mob is at your door, Fernando. What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna tell them that they need to cope and seethe and cry about it.
Just
Based. W.
start reading that one passage where Paul says that homosexuals won't enter the kingdom, and then they're just gonna cry and run away.
Yep, it's over.
First-
Just read it
And then
live
of
on
course it's
stream
1
here.
Corinthians 6:9.
Oh my
Oh, it's over.
god, that's insane, bro.
That's
What?
particularly Deva.
Deva.
Yep,
Do
Deva.
not know that the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God. Do not be deceived. Neither the immoral, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor sexual perverts, nor thieves, nor greedy, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor robbers will inherit the kingdom of God. This is from the RSV. Sexual perverts includes the sodomites, by the way. So if you guys think that you have escaped that, you unfortunately have not.
Yep, that's pretty
I've
much.
actually seen many people like level arguments like, it says in Leviticus like something about it doesn't actually mean man lies with man, but like I've only seen Jews make this argument, but a lot of their classical rabbinic commentaries are even tougher than like we are.
That's awesome.
That's,
You know, I don't know how you escape this conclusion. Like, there's a certain kind of performativeness in being some kind of progressive Christian that thinks this is acceptable. Because even the actual atheist progressives know that this is like an idiotic thing to try to reconcile. You
Obviously,
cannot do it.
That's why they just mock the Bible, because it says that.
Yeah, because they know, and they don't welcome the Christian progressives because they know that there is no reconciling these very obvious and very clear passages. Which, by the way, do not just include homosexual activity, they include all manner of sexual activity that could even be performed between males and females. So it's not just that we're singling out the homosexuals here, but
Yeah.
I think the tradition does say that it's like particularly grievous to engage in homosexual activities, but like it still includes the fact that other sexual acts are also problematic if they're not in the context of
Let's go.
marriage.
Marital union.
And even if you're married and you're doing things like gooning, this is going to be a very hard teaching for some of you guys. I can't understand this, but
Oh, that's devastating.
gooning is not permitted. Gooning is a mortal sin. I apologize. Okay, we're kind of hard hit by that, but
Hard hit.
Yeah,
But,
there's like initial disputes in our paradigm, but the vast majority of the scholars lean to the view that it is not permissible. That's the view that I take. It's not permissible.
This is the view that we take too, is that it's a mortally sinful act. It might even be a homosexual act. I think there's a good argument to be made that it is.
I got added to a group called the Golden Gooners once. Everyone in there was like the golden goon, the gooner, the emerald edger, like the
Emerald Edger.
the silver stroker, the bronze
Hell.
beater,
Bronze beater.
Geeter.
beater, not
Oh,
beater.
beater. The bronze beater.
Awesome.
Awesome.
That's awesome. That's funny.
I think, by the way, in the atheist slash like you should make a video about atheism. You should also make a video about deism.
I did
okay.
make a video about deism a while ago. Maybe I'll make another one though.
Because that your syllogism that you have is
Oh,
there's some
syllogism is freaking insane, dude. So, deism, okay, so what I'll say about deism is that I think it's a rational position, as in, like, there's nothing within its internal logic that would make it problematic or, like, irrational. I think that it is false because of the existence of, like, ethical intuition. But, like, it's the furthest that you can go. I also think it's functionally atheism. I don't think it changes anything for you if you are a deist. Like, because functionally atheist people, like, what they do is they don't adhere to any religion, obviously, or they wouldn't be atheists. They also have no standard by which to make moral judgments and things like that. I don't think you escape that problem by being a deist.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. You definitely don't, because it's gonna just be functionally. Because here's the thing, that theism, whether you're a Christian or a Muslim or even like a Jew, you have the ability to ground the morality that you hold to in a certain like unarbitrary method.
Correct.
But if you're a deist, it's gonna just be a functional thing where it's like, okay, you believe that God exists, but I mean,
But
that's
because
good.
he didn't have any divine revelation, there's no way to know what actually are the
Exactly.
ethics. Especially because there are...
Some of them just affirm that God isn't communicative. Like, he doesn't want to communicate with creation.
Either he doesn't want to or he simply does not do it.
Yeah.
And
I've
either
heard
way, you
both.
don't escape that problem, because then you got to be able to reconcile, like, okay, we have all these various different schools of thought regarding ethics. We have, like, utilitarianism. We have natural law. We have, like, all these other things. And who's right? Like, how do you know? How do you even have grounding? If God doesn't communicate to us,
Can't that be like a P and not P? Because, like, if you say, okay, if you affirm God doesn't communicate, but the conclusion of the argument is God has communicated with us in some way, you can't affirm God communicating and deny
correct.
God
Yeah,
communicating.
so,
It's a
like,
P and not P.
if you want to say that, like, we still do have something like moral intuition that actually carries weight and matters, and also you want to say that God didn't communicate, that to us, then how did we get it? Like, you would have to say,
Yeah,
God.
it's gonna be a P and not P.
yeah. You'd have to say that God gave it to us. Otherwise, like, if it wasn't God who gave it to us, then where did it come from? Some people, like some of the deists, they'll try to say something like, we evolved with morals. Morals are an evolutionary construct. Okay, but that doesn't even really matter. Because that just concedes that there actually is no moral ground for anything. It's just like some evolved instinct. So, again, you're stuck with a functional atheism of there actually is no right and wrong because God doesn't care enough to tell us what that is. But, like, you can still accept all of these consequences of deism and still say deism is true.
Yeah, you just have to.
You just have to throw out ethics too, which I don't think you want to do, but that's just what you kind of have to do, unfortunately for you. So I did like a year ago or maybe even more. I made a video basically outlining that. It was a pretty quick video. It was a gameplay video too. I might do a new one though on that topic because there was like somebody asking me a long time ago, make a video about deism. Have you ever addressed deism? I'm like, yeah, I have. Addressed deism. Like the only thing that deism really serves to do is to put you on the path to theism, and to give you a rational position. Because if you start going into positions like, oh, matter's all that exists, atheism is true, like the hard philosophical atheism, not just, oh, I don't know, I don't really believe it though.
That's just agnosticism.
That's literally just agnosticism, yeah.
Like the hard philosophical view. Like I remember I was watching Jay Dyer make this argument about tag. Now obviously I disagree with Jay Dyer on a couple things, but he was like, if X is a necessary precondition for Y to exist, and Y exists, therefore X exists.
Yes, obviously.
Right. That logically follows. But you know what I saw in the comments?
What?
Oh, he's saying God exists, therefore God exists. I'm like,
no.
Dude, what?
He's saying logic. He's saying basically that there are certain things that cannot be grounded in material and matter that exist anyway and that we know exist, such as logic. And because logic has for a necessary precondition a mind, therefore a mind exists.
The only way to get around that argument is to deny that it's a necessary precondition. You can't just be like, oh, he said God exists, therefore God exists. He's just begging the question. And no, he's not begging the question.
It gets even worse when you realize there are other transcendentals like mathematics, and like a whole bunch of other stuff that you have no reason to expect them to exist. The fact that the universe is ordered and has order to it, that's another problem, although that's a different argument now.
You know,
that's a more fine-tuning type stuff. But
now that we're speaking on atheists, I want to share with you guys an argument that was presented to us on one of the live streams that we did. So there was an atheist that came up and made this argument that if objective morals exist and God is the source of the objective morals and objective moral duties exist, then God should be bound by those duties. But if saving a drowning baby is an objective moral duty and babies drown and God doesn't save them, that means God doesn't exist. It's a P and not P.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it's like objective moral duties exist. Saving drowning babies is an objective moral duty. God doesn't do that. Therefore, God doesn't exist.
Because it's his duty.
Yeah, because he's trying to say he's bound by objective moral duties. So it's like God affirms objective moral duties, but he doesn't actually adhere to them. It's some sort of P and not P or something.
I wouldn't really say that it follows that God doesn't actually exist from that, even if that was true. It would just mean that he doesn't follow his own rules.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, okay, what is the defeater there? What is the defeater to the position? You're just saying like we affirm that God doesn't follow the rules he sets upon creation. What's the defeater there? Like, how does
Well,
that
like-
make our position false?
You also have to ask them the question: how do you even ground morals in the first place? Because for us, what we do, we have a combination of ethical systems, but we have natural law. I'm sure you know what natural law is. It's like
Of course, yeah.
according to its purpose, according to things' purpose. It's literally ought is synonymous with purpose, and what is immoral like contradicts the purpose of things. That's literally what morals are, right? In our view, so you can't just say things like, "Oh, it's immoral." Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, of course, yeah. What is that? What
Because
does
we
that mean?
would view that as synonymous with the natural law, which you could say like, oh, but then that removes the need for God. No, it doesn't, because the only reason that the natural law exists is because
It's
creation
because-
was
yeah.
ordered a certain way.
Oh my gosh, these guys. I was dying laughing because Jay Dyer's comments was like, "Oh, you're just begging the question because you're saying God exists, therefore God exists." And I'm like, dude,
Which is not
what
what
the
anyone
hell
has.
are you guys talking about? No one ever
No
said
one
that.
has ever said that.
No
No serious,
one ever said
no
that.
serious theistic thinker has ever said God exists because He exists.
Obviously not. No Christian thinker, no Jewish thinker, no Muslim thinker. No one makes an argument, bro.
No
That
one
God
makes these
exists,
stupid
therefore God
arguments.
exists.
If you say that, okay, get out of here and leave. You don't need to be part of this discourse. If you
Yes.
say stupid,
If your argument is premise one, God exists, conclusion, God exists, I'm just gonna ban you, bro. I'm not gonna.
I will ban you from this chat.
Unless you're joking. If you're
If
joking,
you're memeing, whatever, okay, but you're actually serious. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, bro.
I was just dying laughing. These guys can't try. I remember the video that you did on Matt Delahanty. Someone said, "Oh, fine tuning. If things were different, then things would be different." I was
Which
like,
is
dude,
not what
what?
anyone
That
ever
is
said.
not what the argument is. I guess he's trying to
You know,
prove
there
some
was a whole
circularity.
discussion in my comments of my fine tuning video.
The One Universe. I'm
yeah,
actually
the One Universe
watched
thing.
that
There was a
because
whole bunch of
I heard that
comments.
one of them, the people that we know, actually had an objection to the.
Yeah,
answer
the
to
objection was something like, well, I don't think that we can measure probability unless it's observed, is basically what he thinks.
Have you ever heard of the popular phrase, "What's the argument for that"?
What's the argument for that? That's something people say.
Yeah, it's something people say in discourses. Yeah, when someone like makes an assertion, they say, what's the argument for that?" That's what I would tell them. What's the argument for that assertion that it can only be measured if it's observed?
Basically, he kind of discarded theoretical probability. Now, I will admit that like that's actually a very smart move if you want to keep your position intact.
Obviously, yeah.
Because my whole thing was based on theoretical probability.
Yeah.
Okay, my whole thing was based on my objection to the One Universe thing was basically saying, look, we know that there are certain principles that we can use to determine probability, and we know that we can apply them regardless of how many universes we have. And those principles are, that things don't necessarily tend towards precision and order. So that means we actually can keep the fine-tuning argument going, and it actually still is powerful, and this objection doesn't matter. That's basically what I said. He says, no, only empirical probability, which is like the actual observable probability thing. That's the only kind of probability that we can use to determine these things, and therefore we need another universe to test that with.
Yeah, it's just going to be, it's going to be like a very, it's going to be smart to discard like theoretical probabilities and whatnot.
Except you can't really do that because then you're denying things that are very obviously the case. Like,
Obviously,
does
yeah.
anyone deny that the more precise factors are needed for an outcome, the less likely it is? Does anyone deny that?
Obviously
If
not.
you deny that, let me know. But I don't really think.
Obviously, like very, very few people are gonna few people are gonna deny that. Yeah, the more precise facts are, the less likely that it is like the case. That's just going to be obvious.
Like this is actually observable. Like everyone knows this.
That's just going to be obvious.
Ironically, he's calling into question this stuff because it's not observed, but it actually is observed and well documented that the more precise things need to be for an outcome to happen, the less likely that outcome will happen.
Obviously,
this is well known.
This is going to be super
and we don't
obvious.
need another universe to study the factors within this universe and determine how precise they need to be.
By the way, did the chat really leave?
I'm still here.
Okay,
It's just that there hasn't been any chats. You know?
There's been no chats.
Literally.
Your channel is dead, friend. You should give it up.
It's over, chatters.
It's over, Durnan.
It's over.
It's over.
You're being sent back to the Alps.
You're being sent back to to struggling in the Alps. Sorry, guy.
By the way, was that all the video ideas that you had?
Let me think, cause there was some political stuff that was going on too that I was thinking about covering. Like it was a whole bunch of disputes with the judicial branch trying to micromanage the executive.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Being
I haven't really been following
silly.
the political scheme of things very much. That would be an interesting video.
Like they tried to tell the commander in chief, the president, who exercises supreme authority over the military, that he cannot lay off the gender dysphoric individuals.
Obviously, yeah.
Notice the term gender dysphoric, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not. The only time that I'm going to be using the term transgender is when I put in quotes.
Right. Quote
Because
See, I have a different
affirm-
slogan for them, but I'm not gonna say it because it might get your stream taken down.
I have to say gender dysphoric individuals because I can't say some other words. But he was basically told that he could not lay off those people from the military. They had to keep them in. Which, no, he actually can lay them off, and he doesn't have to keep them in.
Yeah, there's no reason why. So now there's another thought-provoking question.
Okay.
Have you looked into the Angel of the Lord dispute?
So the Angel of the Lord dispute is the thing where like people are saying the Angel of the Lord is a pre-incarnate Christ kind of thing from the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm, yeah, like certain Thomistic.
The Thomists don't think so, but
yeah, because
other people do.
it contradicts their metaphysics. Because I think Aquinas said like angels are created, and obviously they can't say the Son is created. And Athanasius says that's a heresy. Like you can't say the Son is created. That's obvious.
All I know about that is that Shamoon got all kinds of pissed off and went off on Christian Wagner, bro. Imagine going off on Christian Wagner.
He not only went off on Christian Wagner, he went off on Jimmy Aiken, and he also went off on Trent Horn, and he also is still trying to really really keep his position there because he was getting called out by some Muslims because they're like, oh, you're saying that we worship Satan, but like, what is your what does your Vatican II say? And he had to be like, because this whole time he was advocating for this position that the object of our worship is actually Satan, and it came to the point that one of the Catholic apologists, they were like, I think that talking to us, speaking about us, of course, he said, "Oh, I think that they worship demons, and to say that they worship demons, therefore they don't worship the true God is a non sequitur." I'm like, what do you mean it's a non sequitur? What?
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's actually not.
It completely follows.
If you listen very closely, okay? If you worship demons, you do not worship God. Is that controversial?
No. What? I was like at a loss. I was like, dude, what do you mean? It's a non sequitur. No, it's not. It follows.
No, it's not.
It follows.
Natural conclusion. Well, I think by the logic that these guys kind of used to justify that position, you'd end up having to say things like the Calvinists worship a demon.
I think Shamoon does affirm that position.
That the Calvinists worship a demon.
That the Calvinists worship Satan. Yeah.
Look, it's one thing to say that they have like a blasphemous demonic theology, and it's another thing to say that they actually worship a demon. Like those are completely different claims. And if you're gonna say that, like, I would be very, very careful with saying stuff like that. That's just me, though.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, if you critique like if you critique our theology, that's fine. I could defend my creed, that's fine. But like to hold the position that the object of our worship is literally Satan is just
literally
like, okay.
Satan. Like you're gonna actually have to back that up.
Yeah,
you're going to have to do it.
You can't, because like if you know reason and theology, he showed like a bunch of magisterial sources that said like many magisterial teachings say that the God of Quran is essentially like the same God that you guys worship. Which you can disagree with that, sure, but you have to throw out V2 then if you disagree.
Yeah,
with that.
and you can't really throw out V2 and be a faithful Catholic
Obviously not.
Maybe
Isn't there a
be one
sect
of those
of
sedevacanists.
Yeah, sedevacanists.
Sedevacantists.
What the heck are those guys?
So those are people. They're kind of wacky. Okay, they believe that there is no longer a valid pope.
Oh, when does your succession stop?
It can depend. Some people said it stopped at Benedict XVI. Some people said it stopped at John the 23rd, Paul the 6th, Pius the 12th. It's a lot different. The mainstream position though is that ever since Pius the 12th there has not been a valid pope, and so therefore the Second Vatican Council was not because they allege that Vatican II and the post-conciliar popes have taught heresy. And so instead of saying, that makes Catholicism false, they dodge that by saying that there hasn't been a pope. Therefore, the Catholic Church didn't truly teach that because there was no real pope. You had no authority to actually say that.
I see. Okay, yeah, I've never actually talked to one of those guys. The probably like I've talked to Catholic, Orthodox, Protestant. I even actually talked to a modalist once.
Never seen a set of a contest. Usually they're within like Catholic circles. They don't venture out most of the time.
I talked to like
really weird guys named Most Holy Family Monastery.
What is that?
The Diamond Brothers. Those people are like
the Diamond Brothers.
Those guys are super sedevacantists. Okay,
Does their succession stop earlier than Pius VI?
No.
Oh no.
Pius XII.
Oh, Pius the 12th. Oh,
that's their last pope that they.
No, not Pius the 6th. You're
Pius
right.
the 6th, way back.
I got confused between Pius the 6th and Pius the 12th because I read up on Pius the 6th a little bit ago, and I was like, oh, Pius the 6th.
Yeah, the problem for the position is that they now have to concede that there is no more valid priests, no more valid bishops. There's obviously no valid pope. Therefore, the sacraments are not valid anymore.
The Eucharist is just gonna be therefore like not. It's going
Nobody
to be,
can
not necessary anymore because like,
It's
isn't it
not
true
only
that you
not
need?
necessary, you can't even make it happen because the priests, there are no more valid priests in their view to say the words of consecration and actually make the consecration happen. Therefore, there are no more. There's no more sacrament.
Yeah, but if they affirm the sacraments are necessary, but they affirm that like they're not necessary right now because of the priesthood, isn't that just going to be like another P and not P? Because you're saying, okay, sacraments are necessary, but they're not necessary right now. How do you obtain salvation
Sacraments are
then?
necessary. Well, their position is sacraments are necessary, but you can't get them right now,
Okay, so then how are you
which is even
saved?
worse.
Yeah, how are you saved then?
You you can't get the sacraments. You can't. And these guys actively tell you like don't attend any masses. Don't go to the new mass. Don't go to the old mass. Don't go to anybody's mass because nobody has valid holy orders. Which is like, okay, you might want to be careful with saying that because the church says that you need to fulfill your Sunday obligation on pain of mortal sin. So, like, you really got to have a good reason to say, oh, you guys don't have Sunday obligations anymore.
Yeah, this guy with the freaking Vatican II dispute and the freaking Angel of the Lord dispute. This guy has his freaking antics. This guy does the same freaking garbage that he's always been doing, bro. Like he was talking about Jimmy Akin and Trent Horn, and he was like going off on them too.
Oh my gosh, man. See, this is what I don't understand. Like, there are people because now there's like the classic anti-Islam crew, Sam, David, that Michael Jones dude, Ridvan. I'm not gonna call him AP. That's stupid. Those guys, they're now saying, "Oh, Vatican II is wrong. Vatican II is stupid." In that proclamation, which is like the only reason you guys are doing that is because like y'all guys are super anti-Islam, attack it every chance you get, and that's not necessarily a problem. Like they'll engage with you guys, but the problem is that in that zeal to be as anti-Muslim as possible, you might end up falling into your own errors. Because then you end up saying things like, "Oh, well, if you have different theologies about God, that means you're worshiping different gods." How does that make any sense?
Yeah, it's just gonna be like, okay, here's the thing with these guys, right? These guys, what the heck? Oh, okay, yeah. So here's a main problem that like I have with these guys as well. I'll never engage with them. Like if you're talking about the classic crew, like David and like Apus and like these guys, especially them three, David, Apus, and Sam. These guys are like notorious blasphemers. Like they say like this not just mean towards Muslims, like blaspheme the mock the religion. Like, okay, you can critique it. You
critique it viciously too.
Of course, you can critique it viciously, but you can't like. Okay, you can critique it, and that is fine. I'll like that. That is a discussion that it can be had, but you can't just be like, oh, the object of your worship is Satan. He says something about using our scriptures as toilet paper, like all these kind of things. Like, oh, bro, like, what the hell's wrong with you?
If you're gonna make that former claim in particular, you got to make sure that it doesn't end up damaging your own theology before you say that too. That's the other thing.
Yeah, and this is why Jay Dyer is like responding to like Sam Schmoon and all of those guys, because he's like, yeah, Sam Schmoon has had to concede, and it was actually like Muslims who started bringing Vatican II and started bringing, because he did this video about this other like Muslim sister where he like slandered her and accused her of like prostitution. And there was a Muslim who brought up Thomas Aquinas, who says that if you do that, if you slander a chaste woman, you're guilty of mortal sin, and you have to.
So base.
Whoa, what happened there?
What happened to him?
His audio kind of broke there.
It cut out. Did it kick him out too? No, it did not.
No, I think he might have. He might have gotten a little bit.
You know what? I'm gonna post this stream link on Twitter.
Oh yeah, I was gonna tweet about it, but there's a lot of. Oh, it's like it's trying to come back, but it's having a little bit of issues.
I just posted. See what we get. All right. Live chat. All right. Here we are. Oh, he's back. Okay. I added him.
Oh
Yeah, I got a call. Sorry about that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. But are there any new chats, VTP? Like,
No.
Oh, your channel's definitely gone.
I'm so cooked.
Oh,
Guys.
you're so
Although
done.
we
Alright,
might
so
get
we're
it. We might
turning-
get it though, because I just posted it on Twitter.
Oh, we
We
might.
might get some, maybe.
You posted the stream link or the StreamYard link?
The stream link, dude. I'm not
I
posting the
thought-
stream yard link on the freaking.
No.
Oh, hell.
No.
What is it? Oh, I was gonna. Oh yeah. So, I thought you guys were streaming on like TT or like Discord.
Oh no, bro.
Well,
We're
since
just
it's
using
the two of
StreamYard.
us, we're just using StreamYard because I didn't even share my system audio, so even if we had been using Discord or Team Talk, that nobody would have heard him.
Oh yeah,
No.
that's right. Yeah, I thought you were streaming through Team Talk Discord.
Yeah.
No, I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then so yeah, BTP, what are you gonna call your channel? Oh, you're gonna keep Metal Crusaders,
I
right?
might keep
Keeping
Metal
the Metal
Crusaders, bro. That's
Crusaders
a
name.
base name, bro.
Not gonna lie, that is a W name. I can't lie.
Yeah, bro. Can't go wrong with Metal Crusaders.
So what are you thinking that the book that you're gonna start off with reviewing is gonna be, and like what can those look like? What do those reviews gonna look like?
Yeah, give us a sneak peek.
To be honest, I don't actually know.
Like, do you have some options?
Like I had a few things in mind, namely like A Fortunate Universe, Speechless, and The Protestant's
Oh, so you're
Dilemma.
reviewing that. So you're reviewing those kinds of books. That's big.
That type
Oh,
of
you're
books.
reviewing those kinds of books.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, hell
Pretty base,
hell
huh?
yeah.
I
That's
think
awesome.
I feel it's going to be interesting too, because this is a field that I don't have as much experience as probably both of you in. So I'll be heading into like new territory on myself. So it'll be
Yeah, I
interesting
mean,
to
it would
see
just, I
how
would imagine that it would just look like
proceed.
you giving a synopsis of the book, giving your thoughts on it. What do you think about the ideas in it? Because it sounds like you're reviewing some like stuff that is very heavy on ideas.
Oh yeah, that's quite. Yeah, it's pretty heavy on.
the Protestant Dilemma. I'm not gonna lie, I want to read that.
The Protestants. So
should, you ought
that's an
to.
interesting book because what it does is it like grants some of the premises of the Protestants, and then it says like these are the consequences. This is the problem.
Yeah, so it says if Protestantism is true, like there's a section that I'm currently reading called the self-authenticating Bible. It says if Protestant is true, then the subject of something along the lines of the subject or the canon is subject to every Christian's personal discernment.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's that kind of thing.
So it's that type of
A lot of the books that I've been reading right now are like TC books.
TC books.
Yeah. You know what you do? Do you know what TC is, Fernando?
TC books.
Yeah.
Oh, what is that?
Like textual criticism books.
Oh, textual criticism.
That's basically what I've been reading like right now. But I still have to finish like freaking Metzger's book.
You know, the last book that I read which actually it might be interesting for B2P to read and review, is called The Once and Future Roman Rite. And what the Once and Future Roman Rite is, it's basically an argument for why we should bring back the old traditional Latin Mass. So it's like it's for Catholics, right? Primarily, but although like anybody can read it, but it's gonna make
Sure,
more
I mean,
sense
it's
to
a book.
Catholics. The reason I'm interested in your thoughts on that is because you come from a charismatic sect, which
Yes.
means that you don't even know what the new mass looks like. And he spends a lot of time like attacking, or I wouldn't really say attacking, but sort of
Critiquing?
critiquing the new mass and the new rite of mass that was promulgated in 1969. So he spends a lot of time doing that, and I kind of want the perspective of like, okay, what does a completely neutral outside observer who has never experienced either mass think about that whole dispute?
That would be
book for me
interesting
read
to
too.
see
Because like, I mean, my knowledge on like church history has improved a bit, but like, I'm saying that would be interesting to see. You know, a book I actually also want to read, the Memos of the Catholic Exorcist,
Oh yeah, I need to read that too. As a matter of fact,
because we do have, I don't know if you knew this, but we do have like a form of exorcism and possession in our like tradition. And I want to see like from the perspective of obviously someone who holds to this other view. I want to see like how they overlap, how they contrast.
like
all these
a
kind of-
comparison, essentially.
Basically,
yeah.
yeah.
That's cool. Yeah,
we're obviously
I actually
gonna
didn't
have
know that
similar
Islam
things.
had a type of
Yeah,
proceeding.
there's a lot
Correct.
of different like religious traditions that have some form of rite of exorcism. I don't know what like the Protestants generally do for that kind of thing. I don't really think they do it, honestly.
I don't know. It's
I-
hard to say because
Because
of
from
the
what you have told
different.
me, is that like in charismatic sects they just kind of think that they can do it via their own power,
via channeling the Holy Spirit. Yep,
which is like no, but
spiritual gifts. You know.
Yeah, I like I used to watch these videos of like these Protestants like exorcising demons out of people, and I used to be like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like,
oh,
do
you mean like the people who say things like "I cast the demon out in the name of Jesus"?
yeah, those like
Ironically-
fundamentalist, evangelical. Oh my bad, BTB, go ahead. Go ahead, BTB.
Ironically enough, I think that's probably what oneness Pentecostals would do. And by the way, to
Oh,
clarify,
yeah.
oneness Pentecostal is the one that believes in like Jesus is the only God.
Unitarians.
Yeah, Unitarians.
No,
They
no,
don't-
oneness
Oneness Pentecostals are
modalism.
monotheists.
They're-
like,
No, they're modalists.
They're
aren't
like,
they?
I think they reject. So if I'm correct, they reject the Trinity, believing that
Yes.
that these are the rest of these are just titles, and
they don't.
the
I don't
one-
even think they baptize in Jesus' name.
They baptize
name of the
only
Son.
in Jesus' name, not in
I
the,
Really?
the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit,
I heard
Oh.
that
according
they
to
were,
what I've read.
I heard that they
Right.
were modalists.
I'm
That sounds like that would be the case.
Because I thought that they believed like Jesus is like the Father in a human form or something.
yes,
Like the
I think
Father
from what I
can
read
take
that
different
does.
forms, and one of those forms is Christ.
Yeah. That's just gonna be modalism.
Yeah, that's just modalism.
That's just gonna
Which
be
was
modalism.
condemned a very long time ago, but
Oh yeah.
I mean, not that they would care. They don't have.
Obviously,
any of-
they don't accept Nicaea, and they don't accept.
They don't
like-
accept Nicaea. They don't accept any of the councils. Probably the people who go there don't even know about the councils.
They don't even know like who
Like the-
Athanasius is.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
at
because-
least
Even you who comes from a Trinitarian Pentecostal background,
I
don't
do,
know. You were introduced to these concepts of the councils and condemned propositions and heresy and things like that through me, because I'm
Yes,
Catholic and
that's true.
I like showed that stuff to you.
I never.
Yes, this is true. I've been studying up a little
You
bit.
know what I need? You know what I need to read? I need to be a little bit more familiar with the hypostatic union heresies. I need to go read the Chalcedonian Creed more.
I need to familiarize myself with Christology, is what they would call it.
Yeah, because I've seen people be like, oh, what is it called? Christ is a God, but Christ is actually only, what is it that he took on the form of a man. He wasn't actually a man or something like that, which I believe is Docetism, which is like where you say that he didn't actually suffer. He just appeared to have suffered.
Yes, yeah. And then, like, that's just... I would maybe go as far as to say that's kind of a offshoot of Gnosticism, right? You know what Gnosticism is, right?
Yeah, of course I do.
There's an emphasis on the spiritual. There's denigrating of the material. The material world is bad. Whoever created the material world is an evil being, right? You know, that kind of belief.
Yeah.
Which we reject as well. But
obviously I reject that.
Obviously.
I couldn't even. What? If I accepted that the person who created the world is an evil being, I would just be like, that would just.
I think everyone rejects that across the board.
You would have to become a dualist who believes that there are like two gods. Because
at that point, that's not even. Yeah.
That there's two gods. One's like a lesser god who created the world, and Jesus is like the higher god, the light god, the better god.
So then that's polytheism, essentially.
Well, if you include in your definition of polytheism the belief that there are only two gods, so like a bitheism, then yes.
Definitely, yeah. That's just gonna be something that we both like outright reject.
We all reject that.
Oh yeah, all of us. Yes.
Obviously, if I accepted that, I would be like just a Catholic.
Honestly,
I would just be like, "Yo, what's wrong with you?"
I see, like, because Gnostics also reject the Old Testament for obvious reasons, and I see that kind of position as lazy and cheating and cheap. Like, you're just the way that you get away from a lot of difficulties in the Old Testament, instead of trying to address them head on, you're just like, oh no, I don't even accept that. Some other god created that. Some other god was the god of the Jews. Yeah.
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 I was talking about, like, he was a professed Orthodox Christian, and I'll tell you why I say professed, right? I was talking about the discussion led to Ignatius of Antioch, and I was bringing up a passage because he was discussing whether or not I was a Trinitarian. I brought up this passage. You know what this guy tells me?
What?
Oh, I don't accept Ignatius. I was like,
Ignatius is a saint in their tradition.
What do you mean you don't accept?
I'm pretty sure Ignatius is a saint. I mean, he's for us too, but for them, they definitely accept Ignatius. And actually, it's even worse for them to say things like Ignatius of Antioch was not a saint, because they don't have like a living teaching office like we do. They don't have a pope, so they rely on the consensus of the church fathers and the councils. You can't just start rejecting the church fathers outright.
Obviously, it's like he just told me, "Oh, I don't accept Ignatius," and I was like, I told him, I was like, "Yo, what do you mean you don't accept Ignatius? Can you just respond to the passage?" He goes, "No, I'm doing the same game that you guys do when you say you don't accept Bart Ehrman," and I was like, "What? That is not even.
Why would they need to accept Bart Ehrman?
What are you talking about?"
What? That's not analogous, because Ignatius is a saint in your tradition. So either you say like Ignatius is not a saint, and then you start committing sins of presumption and pride, thinking that you know these things better than your own church does, or you say I'm not an Orthodox Christian.
And sure enough, a couple months later, I found out he became a modalist.
No way. That's so goofy.
He became a modalist. That is still
incredible.
Modalist.
He just told me outright. He was like, "Well, I don't accept Ignatius." I was like, "Wait, what do you mean you don't accept Ignatius?"
You can't just not accept Ignatius.
I was like, dude, because he actually started a discussion. I was like, I joined the live or whatever, and he was like, "Oh, do you want to talk about Ignatius? Because you made a single claim about Ignatius." I was like, "Yeah." I hold that position about Ignatius, and I brought the first passage that we were going to talk about, and he's like, I don't accept Ignatius. I was like, what do you mean? What do you
I don't
mean?
accept Ignatius.
What do you mean you don't accept Ignatius? By the way, doesn't Ignatius affirm transubstantiation?
Yes. Actually, we use him a lot when we're talking to Protestants and others.
He is very good because I remember in his letter to the Ephesians, he says something like that the bread is the flesh of Christ who suffered.
Yep. He's also, I think he's also big on like the bishops and apostolic succession.
Oh, definitely. He says like 4 or 5 times like you can't do anything without your bishops. You can't, disobey your bishops and your deacons and all that stuff. He's very big on that. I've read Ignatius's letters.
Yeah, there's Protestants who are like, oh, no, Ignatius does not teach apostolic succession or transubstantiation. Clement of Rome teaches sola scriptura.
What the hell? What the hell is there evidence that Clement of Rome teaches sola scriptura?
I don't even know what they say.
Who the hell says stupid stuff like that?
It's really funny.
Quotes from other texts. Oh no, that's Clement of Alexandria. Okay, never mind.
No, Clement of Rome, the earliest guy that we have.
Yeah. I know. He has an epistle to the Corinthians, I think.
Right. I just really think it's funny when Protestants at all like try to appeal to the church fathers for their doctrines, because the church fathers teach other doctrines as well that they don't accept. So why are they doing special pleading? How do you know they got this right?
That's the thing. I remember like Trent Horn did a video, like a 2-hour response video to whether the church fathers believed in purgatory. I remember like a couple of months ago, my knowledge on church history was like very, very, very little. Like I knew only little things here and there, but now I'm actually like, I actually am pretty knowledgeable on church history. Like I know my ins and outs. I actually want to watch that video because like, it's really interesting. Because obviously I'm looking at it from a completely unbiased perspective. Like the church fathers aren't essential to my creed.
You don't really need them.
I don't need them, but I do want to read them. I want to pay like I don't want to obviously misrepresent what they're saying. Oh, this is gonna be interesting video for me to go back and watch. That Gavin Ortlund was making a claim that church fathers rejected purgatory.
Yeah. So it's very interesting the kinds of positions that people like Gavin Ortlund take, because their entire outlook is basically we are in continuity as Protestants. We are in continuity with the church fathers. So instead of doing
not going to be the case.
No, this is not the case. I honestly I respect Ortlund a lot. I think he's very cool. But I just have to say, I think it's kind of foolish to try to reconcile yourself with the church fathers, because like you just can't. Honestly, I don't think you can do it.
On a basic level,
and they try, but on a basic level,
like I seen Irenaeus, I seen Clement of Alexandria quoting from the Book of Tobit.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Is like, why are you rejecting books that they didn't reject then? If you're in continuity with the church fathers, why are you?
That's a big one.
It's very devastating for Calvinists in particular, because they believe in eternal security. People are saying that there is no evidence of eternal security before Calvin. That's what people say. So, like, one of your core doctrines is just apparently made up, and this is not a problem to you?
Yeah, on a very basic level, it's just gonna be like okay, even on a level of canon. Like I've seen many church fathers quote books like Tobit and Judith and those kinds of things that they accept. They accept it, and they quote it like pretty frequently. Like I have Clement of Alexandria, he quotes it. Like some of the guys, they quote the Wisdom of Solomon.
Oh yeah, Wisdom of Solomon.
Oh yeah.
They quote a lot of these, Deuterocanonicals, and Protestants are just like, no, we're in continuity with the early church.
But you also can't say you're in continuity with the early church, and simultaneously, I don't accept that. You can't.
Yeah, obviously not. That's just, you can't say that.
It doesn't work. And also, why don't you accept a whole bunch of other doctrines that the early church accepted, like transubstantiation, or purgatory, or Marian theology, which they like really, really don't like. They really don't like Marian theology, but there are quotations
Marian
that I've
theology.
heard of church fathers elevating Mary to a degree that Protestants are probably not comfortable with.
I actually heard this really, really interesting argument that if you don't say that, if you say Mary, because here's the thing, I saw Trent Horn's video about Mary being Theotokos, according to the Christians, according to the Catholics. And obviously, my main contention against Mary being Theotokos is to say that Jesus is not Theo. But if you accept that he is, and you say she's not a Theotokos, I heard a very interesting argument that's going to lead to Nestorianism. Because it's going to lead to two persons.
Yes, it is. Actually, that is Nestorianism, because if you're saying she's not the mother of God in the sense that she was the God bearer, that's what Theotokos is, that she gave birth to God, not in the sense that she created him, but in the sense that, she had like a divine person in her womb, then you're going to end up having to, in order to avoid that conclusion, you're going to have to say, oh, well, there's two persons. She only gave birth to the human person of Christ.
Yeah, that's just going to lead
That's
to
literally
two persons.
Nestorianism.
Even if you try to show it like, oh, she gave birth to a human. Yeah, but if you're gonna say she gave birth to a human, then that's just gonna be two subjects. She gave birth to one subject, not the other subject.
Right. And
You also
like, how
can't
does that
affirm that the
even work?
union happened like after Christ was born, right? That would just be another heresy.
That would be another problem, yeah.
So like he was born human, but then like a certain period
That's
of
why
time, his
even
divine
modern
nature
day
spread to him, so-
Protestants don't really have a problem with the term Mother of God anymore. Like some of the higher level dudes, they don't really have a problem with that anymore because they realize and recognize that that's going to lead you to some places that you don't want to be. Now,
Obviously,
my contention
like-
with them would just be like, okay, why is it that you think you can hold these guys to some kind of standard of heresy? Like, what even is that for you guys? It's a classic problem of authority that I think Protestantism has. But at least I can appreciate and recognize that they are no longer being silly.
That is true. There's still no chats, huh, BTP?
Nope. There's nothing, bro.
Imagine if I
Whole
go
time.
on the stream and I find a bunch of chats. Oh
What if I find a whole bunch of private chats? Hold on, guys.
no,
Oh,
there's no private chat.
I can't address that.
There's no private chat.
No, there is no private chat, you're right. I just checked.
I'm talking about comments. We have no watchers. No one is watching us ramble.
That's alright. People watch the archive.
They'll watch the archive, and they'll get mad at me for calling them sodomites.
Well, listen. That's what y'all are. Y'all gotta
Listen,
cope and see.
sodomite.
Okay.
Listen, I'm sorry. I'm just using traditional Catholic terminology. Okay, that's what they would call you guys. I'm sorry. What do you guys want me to call you? LGBT individuals? No, that's stupid.
No, they're
I don't
gonna
wanna use
get
that
mad
word.
at you because you didn't say all the letters.
Yeah.
Well, you guys don't even know your own letters. What do you need to do?
That's the point.
Real.
You guys don't even. I thought that the plus was meant to signify all the letters, but now we have like 2S. We have like
What the heck?
freaking some dumb nonsense. Like, I don't care, bro. F off.
No, at this
And
point,
then
you might as well just.
they changed
At this point, you might as well
clear
just.
to questioning. Like, I'm not keeping up with that.
Questioning.
And at this
don't
point, you might
care.
as well just use what Dave Chappelle says and call them the alphabet people.
That's what I call them already. Because, like, listen, we have pansexuals, we have freaking.
We have.
Pansexuality is an absurd notion, by the way.
I would never forget. Bro. Like, I was watching a video of this Muslim on Omegle, this Muslim Arab. He was on Omegle and he saw the flag. He saw the LGBT flag and he's like, oh, what country is that? And she goes, are you serious? It's LGBT, gay, pansexual. And he goes, what is pansexual? Do they want to F a pan or something?
That's fire.
So Unfortunately, pansexual ideology is a symptom of transgender ideology. Because what it does is it says, I am attracted to people of any, quote, gender.
Yep.
So it's basically the new bi.
Basically, yeah, but they still have bi there.
They still have bi there, which is like, okay, which one is it?
But this is like neo-bi, I guess.
Yeah,
This
neo
is
bi.
yeah,
this
this
is
yeah, this is this is neo bi.
Neo-bi.
listen. That's absurd, bro. I'm so look, all of this from my opinion, right? From my perspective, which I'm aware that you guys don't necessarily care about that. Like, I don't expect you guys to, but from my perspective, like all of you are
Ridiculous.
Fucking weird.
Yeah.
violating in violation of God's law to varying degrees.
Yeah, I'm a non-Christian and I accept that 100%.
No, even
So
as
I
a
understand
Protestant, I
that
agree.
you guys don't care about that, okay? But that's what we think.
Yeah.
Because like there has
God.
been some movements, right? And I've heard people say things like, "Oh, we're trying to separate for the sake of PR LGB from everybody else. And it was better when it was all just LGB." No, I reject
No.
that firmly.
No.
From my perspective, all of it is a problem.
Yeah, all of it.
All of it sucks, but at least LGB was a little bit better in the sense they weren't doing half the nonsense that this now is. So it's, yes, I agree, it's still bad, but it's like more
in the
PR
sense that
respectable.
it didn't have as many ideological distortions and ridiculous propositions, right?
As this.
As the new neo-pronoun
movement.
BS.
Yeah.
Do you,
Oh my god.
do you know what a neo-pronoun is? Oh my gosh.
No, I don't.
Okay, so the natural endpoint and logic of gender ideology is that every single gender is a social construct, right?
Yep.
All notions of gender are social constructs, therefore you can create them out of thin air, whatever the hell you want, make a gender whatever it is that you feel like it be.
It's just
Okay?
arbitrary.
It's all arbitrary. So what they started doing is they want to move away from gendered pronouns too. So they started, and this is obviously just a natural outgrowth of this as well. So they started saying things like
Another logical.
Caesar.
Oh, they've been saying that.
I've
Yeah,
been saying that.
that's and it's really funny because there's like obviously the more rational people who are like, no, that's a hijacking of the trans movement, but they don't actually realize that no, it's actually just the perfect endpoint of it. It's the end. If you
It's the
can
logical endpoint.
if gender doesn't matter, you can change it at will. Then you can change the pronouns too, and you can make whatever gender you want. Then this
It's
is
just
just the
gonna
consequences
follow.
that you inherit.
Yeah,
sorry.
it's just gonna follow. If P implies Q and P is true, then Q is true. Right? That's just gonna be the logical axiom here. Like if a proposition P implies proposition Q and proposition P is true, then Q needs to be true. That's just going to be it's just going to be so.
Yeah, I just think it's really funny that there's like still some resistance in people who think, oh no, we can make this rational. No, it's inherently irrational from the start.
It's inherently-
That's why I don't even use the term transgender and without quoting it, right? Like without putting quotes around it and saying this is not the term that I use, the term that you guys use. Because I don't accept that anybody can transition genders. That is the rational position. If you want to go back to a rational, sane position, that's what you're going to have to do. The problem is you're going to end up getting canceled. And
Yeah.
all the guys are going to hate you.
Cancel culture mob is gonna show up at your door, chat.
Real. Well, have them show up. I don't care.
Have them show up, man. Listen, any
Listen.
day, if you guys really want to have a good faith discussion about any of these things, you're more than welcome to challenge me on that because I'll do it.
There's this one time I remember where I was doing shorts for you, and I kept doing so many shorts about, quote, transgenderism, so much so that people almost called me the tranny guy.
Tranny guy.
That is not a title you want predicated to you.
No, you don't want to get called that. You do not want to get called.
No,
the
I know.
quote Tranny guy.
I know
I'm
that.
telling you, you do not want to get called. You
Because
do
that
not
will
want to-
insinuate
I
that you
know, I'm
are
aware.
that. You are. I don't know how many times I can say that word because apparently it's a slur. So I can't say that.
Oh, damn, that's ridiculous. Well, the point is that it's funny. Like, obviously I don't want that predicated to me, but
No, you don't.
just the fact that I did
Okay,
so many
look.
shorts about that.
Look, listen, guys. I know that I have people in my audience who like they're super anti-trans. They just don't know how to actually articulate that view. The way that we start winning on this issue is by saying that there are no trans people. So anytime people make references to quote trans people, we say no, there is no such thing as that. That's how we
That's the way
actually
to
win.
go.
That's what we do, okay? And that's why I have spent a ton of time on Twitter. Anytime I see people say things like, "Oh, you're hurting the trans kids" or something, I say no, I'm not, because there is no such thing.
That's
There
like
is
this
no
really
such thing.
interesting argument that there is no such thing as an atheist, because an atheist is gonna be someone that rejects a deity, and so we're gonna say for any X who is an atheist, who is a person, there's no such thing, because basically it's gonna say like you worship your desires, or you worship basically yourself in a sort of way. That's an interesting take.
If by atheist we mean somebody who does not worship anything and who does not, have any kind of religious zeal for any kind of secular or religious matter, yes. I would say there is no such thing as that, because everyone has zeal of that kind for something.
Obviously, yeah.
Everyone does.
Just going, yeah. That's what the argument's gonna run off. Yeah.
But if we just say like atheist is somebody who denies
Who doesn't
the
hold to
existence,
theism? Yeah, that's what I mean.
who rejects theism on whatever grounds, okay, then obviously that's a real thing.
Obviously, that's.
But if you just say like, "Oh, I'm an atheist. I don't worship anything. I don't have that kind of zeal that you do," no, that's false. Everyone does.
Yeah, that is not.
Every person. We just know how to channel it and direct it towards its proper object, and you guys don't.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. But I'm still gonna laugh at the freaking stream. I wish the stream was still up, where I threw a freaking a whole temper tantrum.
Was that on the Metal Crusaders channel? Because I could bring it up.
It might have been,
back up.
because I can put it back up.
No, I don't even know if it's down or not. But I
I
haven't
don't even
checked.
know if it's down, but
I haven't checked. But that was so funny, bro. I was like, if I don't have all of the cards, I'm gonna throw a temper tantrum.
remember that one time?
I can't remember if you ended up getting all the cards or not.
I got 29 out of 30 cards.
Remember that one time when the Hearthstone model was down?
Oh yeah,
Oh yes, I still remember that, bro.
that's an awesome event. Hearthstone model was down. This guy tells him, "Yo, the Hearthstone mod's out." He's like, "The mod's out. Let's go!"
Let's go. And I was like, I'm just
like-
I'm just playing, right? It's not out yet, right?
He's like, "I hate you." I think
I hate you
I hate you so
So
much.
much.
much right now.
It's my birthday tomorrow, guys.
It's my birthday tomorrow.
No,
No, it's my
his.
birthday tomorrow.
It was my brother's
go
birthday
go back to your home. You know.
My home.
Yeah.
I'm already in my home.
Oh.
It's my birthday tomorrow. I'm gonna eat
Oh.
cake.
So did you guys end up seeing? I don't know if you ever
Tacos?
subscribed to the TBG channel. Matt
Uh-huh.
tried to comment on politics and he got devastated. by
Wait,
me.
what did Matt
Oh, I
say?
should have seen that.
You guys want to watch the video?
Bet.
Yeah, sure, we do that. Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, gosh.
I think you might have to represent though, because you didn't start off sharing.
Oh, I might
Screen
have to.
first.
I might have to do that. Hold on.
BTP, why would I go on the stream? I see 50 chat messages.
Wait, what?
No.
I had to
BTP,
turn on my screen curtain because I'm switching YouTube accounts. And
Oh,
show my
no,
email
yeah,
address
do that
and,
first.
Oh yeah, that's not.
Do that
Yeah,
first.
necessarily want people to have access to that, given the nature of the things I say.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Okay, so
They're gonna take your account down. Be careful there.
Real.
Right.
Gotta be careful, Cheddars.
Gotta be careful.
Yep. Dude, I've gotten so used to saying chatters in private.
Chatters. I was the first one who started saying chatters.
Okay.
You were? Because I think
Yeah,
that
because
reached me. Because I think that
First it
reached me
was
through
chat,
him.
and then it was chatters.
And then I thought Jula was the progenitor
started
of
chat.
chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, he started chat, but then I said chatters because I heard some streamer say chatters.
Oh yeah. Well, I kept saying that so much in private with him that now I got used to saying it, and I'm like,
Bro, I
Damn.
even say chat sometimes even when I'm not even live, bro.
Oh, I do that too.
for real.
I'll be like, what is going on?
COD
with this-
gameplay would be like,
What is
oh
going
my
on
god,
with this hand chat?
we got assailants on us, chat.
Okay, present or invite.
I just drew Patches the freaking pirate chat.
I killed Augusto earlier, chat.
Good. He's such an annoying.
He's
Dude, All he
annoying.
does is use shotgun. He's such a freaking. So good. He's good.
I got him on the bed in the room of one of these houses.
Okay, this works now, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh shit. It's a little bit doubling for some reason.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
It's doubling on you.
Hear ourselves, bro.
It's
Oh,
doubling
yes,
on you.
it is.
Yeah.
How do we?
I
fix
don't like this.
Oh, hold on. I can fix it. Okay. I can fix her.
You can fix it.
Sir. You stupid. There it goes.
There it goes. There
Okay.
goes the echoes.
I'm gonna present only a Chrome tab instead.
Oh. Okay.
Not gonna lie, Christian of Strategist is not a bad Christian name. That name go hard.
No, it does. It do go hard. Okay.
It do go
I
I'm
hard.
should
not
go
trying
hard.
to stream the audio from the tabs that is Vatican One. The heck?
Vatican One.
Vatican
Yeah.
One.
I had Vatican One open, on my tab because you know how I was reading anathemas from it earlier.
Oh yeah. You were reading. Yeah.
I had that on screen
yeah.
too. Okay.
Yeah.
Present or invite. Share screen. Chrome tab. I still have Luke 1 open too? What the heck?
It's 2 p.m. chat.
Yeah, turn that off.
It's 5 p.m. chat.
That's goofy.
That's
y'all,
goofy.
y'all got
That's
shut up.
goofy.
Y'all got any plans for later today, the 4th of July?
Is that that's
That's goofy.
Goofy.
I'm probably gonna go to my aunt's house.
Oh, cool.
Um
I'm not trying
Yeah.
to decrease in the first Vatican.
Y'all gonna do anything?
what?
What?
What? What are
Oh
you
my-
saying? The only thing I understood from that was First Vatican Council.
It keeps trying me to stream the audio of the decrees of the First Vatican Council. That's a tab name, and I'm not trying to do that. I don't want to do that. The heck?
You
I
can
remember-
switch tabs with the arrows.
I
can't
remember the
you?
Matt dilemma.
Oh, dude, the Matt dilemma was so fire.
That was
Dude, the
cool.
Matt dilemma.
Dude, I gotta rewatch that. 'Cause that was cool.
Found it.
W.
Okay, Let me know if you guys can hear this. So that
Yeah, I got it.
I don't often
I hear it.
comment on the
Yes,
events
we can
that
hear that,
happen in the blind community anymore. I stopped doing that.
Oh, I think I saw that. Wait, what's the title of that?
I'm commenting on. It's called Matt Tries Politics.
Oh.
Oh, I can't wait to hear it, Matt.
I can't wait to hear that.
He's gonna get actually. I'm proud of this
Body.
reputation, guys. Listen to this. Things that I feel a lot more compelled to comment on, but every so often, if there's something that I feel compelled to talk about, I will. And in this case, what we have is actually something very unique because it's a rare fusion of what I used to do, which is comment on the events in the blind community, and what I do now, which is talk about politics, philosophy, and theology. Because what happened was Matt decided to enlighten us all by
Enlighten
weighing in on current day politics. And as the community's de facto political commentator, I feel the need to analyze and ultimately address it. So, what is it that he said? What was the insights that he blessed us with?
Blessed us.
He decided to weigh in on the immigration riots happening in LA, and he
check out my
made
tweets about
a
that, by the
very
way.
short community post about it that I can actually read in full because it's like one sentence.
This is so childish, too.
So this is what he said, quote, "What's the matter, Trumpy? Are you crying because we're trying to stop you from firing and deporting hardworking immigrants?" So this post
Is that
parrots
That's
a
it. Yeah.
common talking
What?
point that
I'm
comes
confused.
from the political left and really from people who object to the actions of this administration in general. And it's
For some reason, I thought
actually
you said
very easy
this individual.
to diffuse. And I will do so because this may come as a surprise to some of you, but I am actually very much in line with the president and his supporters and the position on the immigration issue. And this is for several reasons. I could talk about the moral reasons, the sort of right-wing philosophy behind this, but I might actually make a whole separate video on that because that gets a little bit more complicated and that involves analogies and stuff. So instead, I am going to talk about the practical effects of illegal immigration. And I'm going to diffuse this talking point by asserting that instead of defending innocent people as the people who say this claim to do, they are actually advocating, even if they don't know it, for perpetuating an exploitative system. And I know that's kind of a loaded claim, so I'm going to explain that. So what illegal immigration does is that it creates a class system. What I mean by that is you've got three classes. First, you've got the illegal immigrant class. You've got people who are oftentimes very desperate, who, yes, I concede, many times are looking for work. They are economic migrants. However, because they are not entitled to the same rights as a citizen, they are very oftentimes exploited, and employers will hire them because they know that they can exploit them for very cheap labor, pay them pennies, and they don't even have to be held accountable for it since technically they're not entitled to any of the legal protection that a citizen is, since they decided to forfeit those by not, coming in the correct way and doing all the procedures so that you actually are entitled to those things. So that's the first class, right? But then, because you've got that class, you now create a second class. And this is what I like to call the dependent class. This is a subset of people honestly mostly liberals, who do not feel the need to work in the fields that these immigrants work in, and quite literally the fields in many cases,
The field.
because they
Literally
don't
the
feel
field.
the need
Literally.
to develop skills for manual labor, since class 1 exists and they can just hire them for pennies. Okay, so you've got a dependent class, you've got a class of people who are now dependent on these individuals, and that causes, especially in those communities, a narrative to form that all Americans are like lazy and don't want to work. The error that this narrative has is that this only applies to this dependent class, not to the third class of people that I'm going to talk about, which is a class of people who are native born citizens. And this class consists of many people across many different communities. This kind of transcends cultural and racial lines. There's a ton of people in this camp. Okay. And what ends up happening to these people is that they either get laid off or they are no longer hired because employers have this cheap labor option. So the people who get screwed in the end are the workers who do feel the need to put in the work and who do want to and have all the disposition in the world to do so, but no longer get hired because they, actually have rights and are entitled to certain things and are not basically treated like foreign slave labor. Okay. So those are the people who get screwed over the most. And that is what the deportation program is trying to address. It's trying to address the needs of the third group of people, the working class individuals who do the manual labor. Okay? And I just spent all this time talking about how the immigrants are exploited for cheap labor, and that is wrong, absolutely. And this should not happen to them. But the problem is, okay, that you can't feel a ton of sympathy for this group. It only extends so far because something that often doesn't get talked about and gets kind of glossed over is that they don't only break a law to get in, they also have to continuously break laws to remain in the country. What do I mean by that? They have to commit identity theft and fraud to stay in this country. And the reason for that is because in order to be the, quote, hardworking immigrants that Matt claims that these people are, they have to actually, work and get jobs and stuff like that, right? And to get housing and to sustain a life in this country, they have to have documentation. At some point, they have to show documentation, okay? And if they don't have it, oftentimes they will forge it, or they will make up social security numbers, or they will steal social security numbers and the identity of other people. In fact, just this morning, my mom told me a story about somebody that she knew who ended up getting caught using someone else's social security number. And the reason that he got caught was because the person who the number actually belonged to figured out that there was a whole bunch of stuff happening under his name that he did not authorize. And so he investigated it, and they ended up finding out that there was somebody residing in the country illegally who is using his identity to get by. And I think that any reasonable person can see why this is a problem. And this is not an isolated incident. This happens all the time because it has to. In order to sustain yourself in a country illegally, you have to, at some point, like I said, show documentation, and so you have to forge it, which is a crime, or steal it from somebody else, which is also a crime. Okay, so they're actually kind of lucky that they get deported, because if they were entitled to all the rights of a citizen and all the legal processes, they would actually get prosecuted and arrested and put behind bars instead of just deported, because that's a crime and you can't do that. So you've got people who in many instances have to commit identity theft, but who also oftentimes don't even have loyalty to the country that they're in. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Matt, but there are people in your state who identify as Mexican nationalists who believe that because Mexico controlled California for like 20 years at one point, okay, because they did that, Mexico is entitled to have California back. Did you know that? Were you aware of that? That's partially what the riots are about. There's a bunch of rioters who are protesting and rioting for that purpose. They really believe that California is rightfully Mexican land. That's preposterous. That's absurd and ridiculous. So, to summarize my main critiques of Matt's position, okay? Number one, it perpetuates a class system. And the people who end up getting screwed over are the third class, the native-born citizens, who end up getting displaced in their jobs or just not even hired because of cheap labor. Number two, that first cheap labor providing class has to commit a crime to enter and commit crimes to remain long term. And the only other things that I would add is two things. Number one, illegal immigration perpetuates the failures of the state of Mexico. And I did not misspeak when I said state of Mexico. I mean the state of the country of Mexico. It perpetuates its failures because what ends up happening is instead of, providing some kind of infrastructure for all these people who want to leave, it just ends up using the United States as a dumping ground for all of its people so that they can leave and go somewhere else and make it somebody else's problem instead of having a revolt in the country, right, in Mexico. And that is not sustainable, obviously. You can't just use somewhere else as their dumping ground so that you don't have to address the problems within your own state. And number two, the reason that the political left even cares about the migration issue in the first place is because it wants to have a permanent voting bloc. It wants a significant portion of the population to vote Democrat. Now, Matt, you have yourself stated that you are against most of what the Democratic Party stands for. You've stated that you are pro-life. You've stated that you are anti the rainbow agenda. Okay? Everyone knows what that is.
The rainbow agenda.
So
that's awesome.
If you oppose these
I love
things,
that.
you cannot be advocating to perpetuate a system that is meant to create a permanent voter bloc for those causes that you claim to hate. Okay? And with all of that being said, I think I've kind of went past the time that I wanted to give myself, but that is my response and my critique of Matt's immigration position. I will say that it seems like a common sense, reasonable view at first. I also kind of held that at some point, okay, years ago. But you do some thinking and you realize it's silly. You do some thinking and you realize that saying, "Oh, you can't deport these hard workers," just ends up saying, "We want a slave labor class," which
That's
obviously
like the logical endpoint.
it is
Not
unfortunately
the best.
what you end up saying, as you
Yeah, it
can
is.
very easily come to conclusion yourself. Okay, so with all that being said, I apologize if I went on a little bit too long, but this wasn't scripted, and I just kind of wanted to respond to this because it's a very rare opportunity. But if you want to hear more structured things like this, go subscribe to my main channel, Establishing Truth, and I will see you guys on this channel whenever. I can't really promise anything. I can't really be sure that anything else will happen, but I'll see you guys later. God bless.
Hell yeah.
So Matt got like
He got pretty bodied. But what stood out to me too is how you said that this type of class, because of the way that it came in, perpetuates crime. And I think it also goes beyond that too, because there are also people that just commit crime across the board, regardless of the country that they're in. So, like, you have cartel agents coming in from Mexico that seek to
just
help
straight up undisputed
Straight up
criminals.
undisputed
Because
criminals.
like it was my contention that being a long-term illegal immigrant who wants to actually stay in the country for a while requires you to commit a crime, which that was identity theft and fraud.
And it does.
And it does, but like,
But then
there's
there's
also the problem of just the straight up criminals who don't even
just straight up
pretend
criminals.
to
Or
be-
people who just come in and just depend, or the dependent class that just don't
Well, the
even work.
dependent class. What is the dependent class? Is white liberals. That is what the dependent class is. When I say dependent class, I mean white liberals who hire, I have a gardener, I have my maid, I have all this stuff, right? That is the
That
dependent
type of
class. That is who the dependent
Oh,
class
okay.
is.
Because
The
yeah,
third class that I was talking about, that is the class, because I said it transcends racial and cultural lines. That was kind of the MAGA
it does,
coalition.
yes.
That was Trump's coalition. That's the guys he appealed to. So there was like white folks, black people, Latinos. There were all kinds of people.
All
who
types
said,
of people.
look, my labor is worth more than pennies on the dollar. Like,
Right.
and that's the people who are affected. That's who Trump is trying to help.
Yeah.
And also, because
reason,
I
sure.
know, because you and I both come from either immigrant or immigrant adjacent communities, and we both
do,
know
yes.
that there's like this narrative in them that basically says, oh, all the Americans, they don't even want to do any work. And that's why we basically built this country for them, which is not true.
Definitely.
The error-
I held that.
I used to
belief
hold to that
almost for a
position.
bit.
I also
Same.
used to hold to that position. But the problem is that that only applies to one class of American, which is like the liberal American. Not, the people who are actually trying to go out and get these manual jobs. Because there are plenty of people who will do it. They just won't get hired
Sure.
because they're worth more. They are entitled to more things, economically speaking. And so that's why companies would rather just hire the illegal immigrants, because technically you can just do whatever you want with them.
True. You don't even have to workers' comp.
No, you don't have to do
So you
anything
don't-
for them. Bro, I heard about somebody who is an illegal immigrant, and the company that they were working for was also paying for the house that they were working at and the house that they
Yeah.
lived in. And so
Yeah.
when there was a dispute between him and the boss, he just got kicked out of his home.
That's crazy. Well, yeah, this is what this leads to, you guys.
That's what happens.
I think the
That's-
most substantive part of Matt's post is "What's the matter, Trumpy?"
Yeah,
That is the
that's
most
funny.
substantive part.
Trumpy.
So childish, so stupid.
So childish.
Man said Trumpy. I'm dead, bro.
For real.
Man, that's insane.
And then
Look,
I
I could have
recently
gone into the more like because there are arguments to make against legal immigration as well. By the way, that I didn't even get into because I know that he's not going to understand them. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be uncharitable or anything, but I know that you're probably not going to be able to follow the more philosophical arguments.
The arguments against what, legal immigration?
Well, yes, legal immigration, unrestricted and like unregulated, which kind of sounds like a contradiction, but what that means is like you basically just end up giving legal status to a whole bunch of people en masse.
which is what
I
happened,
see.
I think, in like Biden's term, right?
No, what happened in Biden's term is people were just able to pour in, and it didn't even matter. They weren't.
Oh, yeah,
even,
that was the
there
open
wasn't
border.
even an attempt to legalize them and naturalize them at all.
No, in fact, there was sanctuary cities that literally kept them hidden.
Yeah,
And
and now,
harbored criminals.
Harvard criminal. Also, another thing that I didn't even get to in there is that some of those cities in a lot of states, they are entitled to welfare benefits and other such entitlements,
Jesus,
which is like another problem of its own.
that's even worse. It's more spending.
It's not even just more spending. You're spending on people who basically you're just enabling them to. If you guys want to claim, oh, these guys work so hard, can you even really say that when you're giving them all of these government benefits and letting them just live and leech?
Well, but the biggest thing that stands out to me too is that these government benefits come from taxpayers that are
Yeah, we
legally
pay for
citizens.
this.
We pay for
We
this.
pay for random individuals to just pour in and get housing and get. You know, there's people who get put in hotels, like 4-star hotels.
That's ridiculous.
My gosh, what the heck,
Wow.
man?
And then there's people that cause veterans to be kicked out of their homes because they were pouring in.
Well, yeah, like
They
who's
have-
gonna honestly say if you're gonna sit here with a straight face and tell me
that just
that
pissed
it's
me
better
off.
that in a veteran who served in whatever wars we've been fighting in,
Yeah, even with a foreign
it's
legion.
preferable for that veteran to be homeless if it means that an illegal immigrant gets to be housed. Like, you're just insane.
That's insane. Like I
You're
saw a
just
few shorts
insane,
of these like veterans that were like sharing, like, hey, I got squatted by these immigrants. They show up to my house, I get kicked out, and now I'm just out on the street, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, what does this come to? Like it
Yeah, and
low-key made me
that's
feel
not even
sad
to
for these
mention the
people.
problems with mass migration as a whole. Like I said, like there are arguments that you can make from philosophy, moral philosophy, for heavily regulating legal immigration. Like I remember we one time reacted to a video where I think it was Knowles, and he was saying that there's a lot of people who don't even want legal immigration. They want it to be regulated. And at that time, we were like, what is this position? Why is this the case? This is silly. But thinking about it more,
Yeah.
it's actually not silly. It's actually very reasonable.
I used to hold to a counter position.
I used to hold basically the opposite of everything I just said. I used to hold it all.
Yeah, I
didn't
used to
know.
hold. Yeah, I used to hold.
For real. Thought that whoever outed the immigrants were traitors to their own to their own people.
This is the thing, right? This is another hypocrisy and another contradiction. Is that what we were doing is basically doing nationalism. But not for America, it was for Mexico or
It was
other
for-
places.
Yeah. For your
Which is like, there's no problem with nationalism. I have no issue with nationalism, whether it be American or Mexican or whatever. The problem is when you think that your nationalism is like, should be prioritized when you live somewhere else. Like, you can't be mad when the people in America are trying to act for their own interests, irrespective of yours back home. Can't be mad about that.
because you're not even there anymore, right?
You're not there anymore. Like, look, it's okay if you're like, oh, I have a connection to these guys. I like these guys. You can say they're my people and everything like that, whatever. But if that means that you're going to pursue policies to benefit them, then like they don't want you to do that. Why should you be able to do that? That's like, I'm very confident that if you told the Mexicans in Mexico, hey, we're going to import a whole bunch of like Guatemalan nationalists who are going to put their country first instead of yours, they're going to be pissed.
Oh yeah.
They're going to be very mad. So,
Yeah, and that's what's going on in the U.S. right now. Is that?
and that's what is happening. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people, not even just from like South American or Latin American countries. It's all over the place.
No, from everywhere.
People are just pouring in from wherever the hell, and they are more loyal to. And also that's the whole thing with mass migration, is that it creates like these little autonomous communities that are more loyal to their home countries than to the new country. That is the natural consequence of mass migration, legal or illegal. You get like these little ethnic. They're calling them ethnic enclaves because they're just like little autonomous communities that don't act in American interests. They act in their own interests.
Yeah.
And that's obviously a problem for the stability of a nation. It can't survive like that. It's kind of the problem with the whole multicultural experiment as a whole, right? That just gets into critiques of multiculturalism.
It's going to be just like under nationalism. If you subscribe to like America First,
Yeah,
it's going to be what's the word? It's going to be counterintuitive.
it is. But it's also going to undermine society, right? Like it's going to undermine the unity of America when there's a whole bunch of people in America who don't even like the place. Because that's another thing. They're here, but they like disparage everything about it.
I used to hold to a very similar position. Like I never used to say like, fuck America. Like
Oh no, I would never. Actually, I don't even. I may have gone that far. I don't know if I did.
I never
yeah,
used
I may
to,
have, but I don't think so.
I never used to say anything like that. I just used to hold to like a very similar position that you guys also used to hold to. But
Yeah.
well, I'm a changed man.
All right.
Listen, I'm the same individual
Listen.
who
The
said
2023
back in
reforms
2021
chat.
I'm the same guy who said in 2021 that I thought religion was one of the biggest problems in like the world. So
Oh my god.
obviously, like
We have both undergone some serious changes to our position.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
have
called the reforms
evolved.
of 2023 chatters.
I actually, yeah, it was
2023
2023
plus.
when I started doing all this kind of stuff.
Same. It was
Yeah.
2023.
It was, yeah, for all of us.
Yeah, it was 2023 for me. It was 2023 for you.
But like it really kicked off in 24 for me, actually.
Yeah, it kicked off in 23 for me. In 20, I don't remember if it was 20, late 23 or early 24 when like all of my immigration tastes had to completely reorient and
I think it was
was
probably early 24. My best guess.
for me, I think it was early 24.
Because I remember that we were talking about this one day. I think it was early 24, and I remember I wasn't home, so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it
And
was
I
probably
remember I
early
used to hold to this
24.
view that like the left, their positions are contrary to like all of our religious views, and the right, we can't be part of them because they would require us to basically be race traders was my thought process. I don't think that anymore. I think that's stupid. No, it does not require you to be a race trader.
I remember. Speaking of race traders, I remember.
I just saw this now. Brilliant Brianna says hi. Hello.
Hi. So
Hey, what's up? I remember there was a joke that was happening in like early 24, like January. This was before I had my radical position change. I wouldn't like some would say it was like a radical position change, but no matter.
Radical.
There was a joke. I kept saying that the word cocoon is racist. And someone said you said we were arguing about this in GC chat. You said, "Oh, what if I want a black person to tell you that you're wrong?" And I'd be like, "Well, I think they're self-haters."
that is actually what they do. You know that if like
That's awesome.
those liberal dudes, they were listening to this, they'd say that we're all like self-hating race traders because we
Oh yeah,
hold
dude!
to
Especially the liberal women who are feminists.
So let me just assert that this is a very ironic position for you guys to take, because you as a white liberal are telling me what my loyalty to my people is, according to you guys. Okay, so there's an extreme irony in calling me a racist and a self-hater. Okay, when you're trying to dictate to me as a white person what I'm supposed to think. It's like when the white liberals try to condescend to the black conservatives too. It's like it's so absurd.
Oh yeah,
They're like, oh, they're just not smart enough. Like that was the response that the liberal establishment was giving to Trump's numbers going up with black men. It was
I know.
Oh, they're just not intelligent enough to they just don't see the problems. So basically they said, oh, we, the white guys, are smarter than you and we know better for you guys than you. Which is insane.
Which is insane coming from someone who thinks that they establish this
anti-racism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just very ironic. I don't know. Would it qualify as oxymoronic? Probably not.
It would be performatively. I guess it would be oxymoronic. It would just be a contradiction. You would just say a performative contradiction.
Oh,
it is a performative contradiction, absolutely. And I mean, look, I'm not super caught up in racial things. Okay, I don't place as ironically the people who place the highest importance on that is them, not me. They claim to speak for people like me, but they don't.
I remember you said something very, very, it appeared to be very controversial. I actually agree, though. You said blasphemy is worse than racism.
Blasphemy is worse than racism.
It absolutely is worse than racism. 100%.
Any faithful theist is going to say that. The only reason why you disagree is if you're an atheist.
100%.
Who says it doesn't even really matter.
I would rather have someone call me a racial slur any day than someone insult my book or my God or my prophets. No.
Look, I would rather have you attack me all day with whatever you want.
Yeah, then just
racial.
I'd rather have you attack me on whatever than just attack my religion or my prophet.
Be a blasphemer. This is so obviously true. But what has happened in modern society, I think, is that we've kind of inverted it. So now racism is the new blasphemy, because blasphemy used to be super frowned upon everywhere, as everyone knows. And now it's racism is the worst thing you can do.
But people blaspheme God in public, and they don't get anything.
Nothing happens to them because there's been a reordering of priorities. So now the worst thing you can do is a racial attack. Which is not to say that racial attacks are good. They're not good. It's
Obviously
just that there's been an inversion to where that's the new blasphemy. Which is insane, and obviously we need to reorder that.
Obviously, any faithful theist would be you can attack my race, you're not gonna attack my religion.
Don't attack
my religion.
Yeah, don't do that.
But when you said that, people were because I remember you said blasphemy is worse than racism, and I thought I was of course it's worse than racism. Obviously, it's gonna be worse than racism. What? What?
Oh no, it's controversial to progressives, because their whole thing is race. They have a cult of race. They're literally the people who make the biggest deal out of race out of anyone in this country.
Yep.
We don't. We, as was demonstrated in the 2024 election, we have a very, very diverse coalition. Okay?
Oh.
Because it's an ideological thing. It's not about race.
Exactly.
I was actually online when it was found out that Trump actually won the election.
We were Sully
That's
and
awesome.
I and Julian too. We were watching the numbers live, and we were like, "Oh crap!"
How are you watching the numbers live?
So what you could do was you could look up who is winning the election, and it will show you like how much votes does this guy have, how much votes does the other person have.
Oh yeah, that's what I did.
That's what I did, and I was like, oh crap.
I was
please
watching
don't.
them live for like a period of time because I went to the store on that day, like when it started. I come back.
Does it update live?
It
Yes,
does.
it
Well, you got to
does.
refresh it, but it does update.
Oh, so you were just refreshing every 2 minutes.
We were just refreshing,
Yeah,
yeah,
essentially.
and we were like basically just monitoring the results like a hawk.
Oh yeah. No, I wasn't
And we
with
were
them,
like,
but
oh
I
my
was
God.
watching it.
And it got very
on my
close
own.
at some point.
Oh yeah, no,
Dude.
At some points, like
Ooh.
got insane. And then I stopped monitoring it for a while, and then in the morning I wake up to a text from a friend that says Trump won the election. I'm like, hell yeah. And then I get on the computer, I look at it again. It's like I think it's like 112 to like 200 something. I don't know.
So what it was 312. 312 to 226 or something like that.
Oof, yeah.
It was,
It was
brutal.
devastating.
She got wiped out. You know that she lost all of the swing states, so literally all of them.
Yeah, even my state, which is a swing state, Nevada, turned turned red.
Red. Yeah.
Swing state meaning could go either way, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She,
And
she
this
lost
year
them all.
it went red.
Oh.
All of them. She didn't win a single
Oh.
one.
Oh.
It's over. I mean, it's pretty good for
That
Nevada too,
is,
because recently the city of Las Vegas itself has been going red. We've got a red sheriff. I think we have a red mayor.
See, I promise you, okay, look, this is another reason to support the deportations program, okay? When we get all those guys out of here, the Republicans are going to start winning a ton.
Oh, yeah,
Because
they're
they're gonna,
gonna
because the
take
Democrats are going
dubs.
to, their voting block is going to be gone, a lot of it.
How can you vote if you're an illegal immigrant, anyways?
They wanted to give them that right. If they had gotten their way and gotten their administration, they were going to allow them to vote by either giving them that right or like counting them in a census or something, so that they're eligible for it. Which is
Wow, that's crazy.
no, I don't want them to be eligible.
No.
I do not want to
don't want
import a
that.
voting block for the Democrats. Please never do that.
Yeah, that's just going to give the Democrats a landslide victory.
Forever.
Like
Yeah.
perpetually.
Literally forever, yeah. Because what illegal immigrant is gonna be like, okay, Democrats, they want to keep me in this nice, comfy hotel. Republicans, they want to send me back to Guadalajara. Like, what am I voting for? Oh, that's an
Obviously
easy
the
choice.
Democrats.
Obviously, the Democrats.
Obviously.
Oh, I'm trying to stay in this. Listen, I'm trying to live my life.
That's what I'm. Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, exactly. And that's just going to be what it's gonna lead to. It's
Exactly,
going to
and they
lead
know
to.
that.
Yeah, that's why they want to do
That's
it.
why they wanted it. Like, not even to mention that, like, voting for the Democrats is going to be a complete offense to everything else you believe in. But they're going to do it anyway
Oh
because,
yeah, because religious convictions. Yeah.
yeah, the religious convictions. Because I'm not going to deny that they are, mostly it's like Mexican Catholics that come in. I'm not going to deny that. So that's actually the reason why a lot of people around me, that like a lot of Hispanic moms that I know, they're actually Trump supporters
Yeah.
because
Same.
because they're
Oh, yeah,
like
it's
the
pretty based.
Democrats are insane. We as Catholics cannot endorse any of these guys. So
Yeah.
My
Obviously,
stepdad's a
like,
Trump
my-
supporter. That's
My great
based.
grandma, like she's a very she's a Catholic. She's a Catholic. She's a very hardcore Catholic. You know, she reads the Bible. She knows about. She goes to mass. All of those things. You know, so she
Respect.
knows. Yeah. So she's like, well, and basically the abortion thing was a thing that was like, okay, these guys,
You know-
they want to kill babies. I can't
yeah,
stand
they're,
for that.
that's why they were being called Democrats for a little bit, but.
Demon cracks.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
they
so
keep
good.
called that. That's very interesting because a lot of the reason that the Democrats got the female vote was because of the abortion issue. Like, the number one reason that they cited for voting for the Democrats was because they thought Harris was going to be better on abortion, meaning that they were going to, the Harris administration was going to allow them more chances to kill their kid. Like, that's what it means.
Do you remember the one tweet that we reacted to on that one stream?
Which one?
You know the one.
Because I remember I made a video about a tweet one time.
No. On the Trump victory stream.
There's a bunch of tweets in there. There's people saying that he cheated.
No. The one tweet that we were laughing at. The one about going to Canada.
Oh, you mean like that was a community post? That
No,
was
you know,
somebody
it
that
wasn't a
was
tweet. No,
fundraising.
yeah, you're right. It wasn't
That
a
was
tweet,
somebody
it
that was
a community
fundraising to go to
post.
Canada.
Yeah, it was
Because
it was
because
a
she's like a
community post.
lesbian who thinks that the Trump administration is gonna start killing the gays or some dumb shit.
Yeah. It wasn't a tweet. Yeah,
Ridiculous, bro.
It wasn't a tweet. Yeah, I misspoke there. It was
It was a community post, and it was her like freaking out, thinking that she was gonna get killed because of the Trump administration. Do you not realize that the Republican Party actually softened their stance on that a little bit? Like, do you not know?
Didn't she say something like Trump is the next Hitler?
Yes.
What the hell is wrong with these people?
That's because like that's the rhetoric that has been present ever since he started. Ever since 10 years ago, that's been the rhetoric that he is Hitler. They're saying that they're gonna fund ICE, and give it a substantial boost in funding, and they're now saying that that's gonna create a police state. And they keep they really, really, really love their Nazi comparisons, which is just
it's just
insane.
going to be stupid. Like these guys. By the way, there's really no chats, aren't there?
No, not after the high chat. No.
Wow.
Oh, by the way, if you are somebody who makes those Nazi comparisons regularly, I don't take you seriously at all because it's very obvious.
I'm not gonna lie, you can't be taken seriously with that crap.
You can't, because it's very obvious that you don't have any familiarity with anything to do with Nazism.
You're just parroting like what you hear. Like what?
Literally,
what
you're
is
just like,
going
oh,
on?
Donald Trump is Hitler. No. Stupid.
No, what? Like, whoa. What?
Listen, I never heard of Nazis advocating for a smaller government in my life, but apparently that's a Nazi position.
Yeah, apparently.
I never heard of Nazis doing a lot of the policy things that he's trying to do. Never heard of that in my life, but apparently it's a Nazi position. And ICE is a police force or something.
It's a police force.
It's going to create a police state. Oh, and also there's a new thing that they're crying about.
Yeah.
Saying that everybody who is deported is entitled to due process, meaning that they think that they need like a trial for every single deportation.
Isn't that sometimes practice? Like, don't some people get trials? And
Some people do, but they think that everyone should. But also, like, if by due process they mean that we need to verify that they're actually an illegal immigrant, okay, yeah, but that's it. That's all they're entitled to.
It's it.
But that's not what they mean. What they mean is that like they should give them all a trial. That they all need to just have an extensive legal battles with all this stuff. Like, no,
that is just a colossal waste of money,
time, resources. You'll never get anything done with that ever.
Never. You'll have the court system more flooded than it actually is with cases, bro. Courts
and it already is.
Oh, it's already super flooded with how many cases go in and out. It's like a river of cases, bro.
And they want every single illegal immigrant. There are millions, by the way. So like, no,
oh yeah,
no way.
That means millions of hearings, preliminaries, attorneys.
Which you're not entitled to because you're not a citizen.
Yeah.
So
I think I
all
might have
the
to leave, by the
there-
way. So.
Okay, I'll take over the chat thing then.
I bet.
So I don't know like where this idea comes from, and then they were also saying that like Trump was holding a military parade last month, and
Mhm.
they were like, "Oh, this is just like a fascist parade to
What?
to make everybody to put fear into people's hearts so that they are terrified, and he just shows that he's an authoritarian with power." Like, come on, man, such an idiotic train of
A
thought.
fascist parade.
Yeah, fascist parade. There was even stupid people. Have you heard of the guy genetically modified skeptic? Do you know him?
I have, yeah.
So that guy is also like a raging leftist apparently because a community post from him came up about that. That's kind of what I'm quoting from. And he was saying like, "Oh, you need to remember that every deportation without due process is a crime. Trump's military parade was for him to demonstrate that he has the power to terrify people." Um, he was just being so silly. And I commented on that and I said, "And you call yourself a rational skeptic, LMAO?"
Did he respond to
No, he
that?
did not respond because he gets like hundreds of comments. But that's what I said because
Did
it's
anyone respond to
hilarious.
you at all?
People liked the comment. The engagement that I got was likes, not replies.
Really?
There was a whole bunch of people. There's a whole bunch of people saying things like, "Oh, I'm gonna leave this country. I wish I could leave." Um, and there were people complaining about how others were saying that they would not permit like riots in their area, equating riots with protests.
What?
Like everyone knows that riot and protest are different things, right? This is well known. I hope.
This is just going to be obvious.
And rioting is illegal. Protesting is not illegal. Rioting is illegal. You cannot riot.
By the way, how long are you gonna keep the stream going for? Do you have any other announcements for us?
Um, how long have I been going? Let me see.
Like about 2.5, I think.
I almost blocked myself from my own channel, chat.
Well, whoops. Whoops, he almost blocked himself from his own channel.
So what I did was I clicked on my own. Apparently, I had clicked on my chat that I put with the link on accident, and so like there was a block button, right? Because when people chat, you can block them from the stream, and I almost pressed that on myself.
Do you click on the chat actions or do you click on the name?
You click on the name, and then it demonstrates the thing.
Okay, that'll be useful information.
And it says like message, report, author, like all that, right? So I almost clicked block on my own thing.
You almost I thought you almost banned yourself from your own StreamYard.
No, I can't do that. I don't think. Wait, actually, hold on. Try this.
I don't think that's gonna be intuitive.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna see if it's possible. No, it's not. It's not possible.
Imagine if you could ban yourself from your own StreamYard.
StreamYard. I can't even kick myself from my own StreamYard.
Yeah, you can't even kick yourself from your own.
That's awesome.
That is indeed W. You've been good for I think 2.5. Do you have any other announcements for us?
Oh, hold on. I got chat. Hold on.
Oh, we got chats. Okay.
Bradley Brianna says, "LOL. I wonder what would happen if you actually blocked yourself from the channel." I guess I wouldn't be able to chat on my own chat.
Unless you unblock yourself.
Which I would have to go through my YouTube studio and unblock myself. I don't want to do all that. I still have to go through my YouTube studio and I have to change my description to include that quotation from the compendium. And write myself a new description and change my Twitter handle and everything. This is tedious work.
Just tedious work.
Tedious work. It is. But in terms of announcements and things like that, no, I don't think so. I don't think I have anything else. Other than like me announcing the potential series that I might do on like the virtues and the vices and
Oh, those, yeah,
the
yeah,
what we'd call the deadly cardinal sins, right? Like
yeah.
like the sin of despair. That's what I'm going to cover first. Despair and presumption, because I see that like around me. I see people say things like, "Oh, I'm giving up because like clearly it's not going to matter because God doesn't care," or the opposite of that. I'm just going to presume that I can do whatever I
I'm
want
just gonna
because
give up
God is
because
mercy,
God is not. Yeah,
and so I'll just like go and confess it later and then continue what I'm doing and things like that. Like it doesn't work that way.
so
Like
obviously,
that classic scenario that people like hypothetically they'll propose to you. They'll say things like, "Oh, what will happen if somebody accepts the truth and then they live in sin for the rest of their life and then at their deathbed they just like repent?" We don't even really think that's practically possible.
really,
We don't. Yeah, that's not possible for you to do. The reason that's not possible for you to do is because when you're committing sins, especially mortal sins, they cloud the intellect. They mess with your judgment, and so when that time comes, when you're on your deathbed, you're probably not even going to see the need to repent because you're like, why does this even matter anymore? I don't care. I did what I want.
yeah. It is somewhat possible in our framework, but the two things that are stopping you is like, okay, if you're insincerely repenting, it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
And number two, because we believe that if you sin against God alone, you can repent, and that's gonna be like what's necessary. But if you sin against God and men, like let's say you lived a life of murder, and on your
Yeah.
deathbed you repented, that's not gonna be enough because you actually have to make it right with the person or the person's family member if you murdered them.
Oh, so you have to kind of like do more than just say you're
Yeah.
sorry.
Of course, yeah. And if you didn't do that in this life, then it will happen in the next day. You actually need to make it right with someone.
Well, the way it works for us is that like if you did sincerely repent, it would work, right? But the problem is you are not able to sincerely repent anymore. The deeper that you go into that lifestyle, you're not able to give a sincere repentance because sincere repentance comes from you acknowledging that you have greatly offended God and you being remorseful about it, and you do that out of love for God himself and not just because you're afraid of the punishment of hell or whatever.
Of course, yeah.
And if you kept living in that lifestyle forever, like you disregarded that a long time ago. So you cannot sincerely
Definitely.
repent.
And there is a story about that a guy who was like he lived an entire life of sin, um, and he was on his deathbed, and he was a Muslim, and the Muslim doctor was trying to get him to say La ilaha illallah because there's a narration that says if someone says La ilaha illallah, their last words, it's gonna be really beneficial for them. But so he tried to get him to say it, but he ended up dying saying, "I want my girlfriend." And that was the last thing that he actually said. So we actually do affirm that in some way. Like when you actually do that and you get lost in all that, repentance is going to be less and less and less of.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
repentance is going to be less and less important to you. Getting right with God is
So
going
it
to be
won't
less and less
happen.
important to you. Of course,
Yeah.
yeah. You're not
So
going
it
to care
won't
about
happen.
that.
If you continue to persist in a degenerate, sinful lifestyle,
Definitely.
which like the only way that we believe you can even go to hell is via mortal sin, to my understanding. Mortal sin, a condition for that is full knowledge and deliberate consent. So you have to know that this is morally sinful and not even care and do it anyway.
Of course,
If
yeah.
you're doing stuff like that, you're not going to be repenting of it later.
Yeah, because the more you do it, repentance and being, getting right with God is going to be less and less important to you.
Yeah, it's not even just going to be less important to you. It's not even going to be possible at some point because of your own dispositions and what you do.
Yeah. That's going to be an interesting video series to watch.
Yeah, despair is what I'm going to start out with, which is not synonymous again with like depression and things like that. Just for people who listen, because I know that there's people who care a lot about like mental health and things like that, and they kind of think that when we speak in this way, we are equating depression with like a sin or something, which is not possible because a sin is not a desire or an emotion. It's an action, and it's a
Yeah,
habit of the will.
of course, yeah. We have the same principles as well. We don't like depression isn't gonna be a sin. Like we also don't. We also say that to say that God is not gonna do something. Like God is not gonna forgive me, or he will never forgive me or someone else, or God,
Yeah.
I'm already saved, and God is gonna forgive all of my sins, and I already know
Oh
this.
yeah, like the
That's
eternal
just gonna
security
be
kind of thing.
yeah, no, not just that. Like if you say I'm gonna give up, like let's say in an Islamic paradigm, you're saying I'm gonna give up praying, I'm gonna give up doing all these things that are essential because I already know that God is, going to forgive me or whatever. That's just going to be insincere. And I'll just repent later. That's just going to be insincere because you're
Oh
trying to
yeah,
fool
it's
with
gonna
God.
be
No one's gonna
insincere
do that.
because you're obviously taking this for granted, and so you're just gonna do it because you're afraid of hell or whatever. Um, but the problem is, we believe that everyone who goes to hell goes there by free choice. So like, if you persist in this lifestyle, not even the fear of hell is gonna stop this.
Yep.
Because hell, what ultimately it is a separation from God that you chose, that you wanted.
Yep.
Which you are not going to repent of because sometimes people will ask, oh well, why isn't it possible for people in hell to repent? Because they've already made their decision. This was like a sum total of everything they ever did in their life. Everything they were doing up to death led up to this point. It's
course,
very unlikely when like everyone knows that when people are stuck in their ways, and the further they go into their own ideas or whatever they believe in, the less likely they are to turn away from them, right? So that's the same thing with death. It's like when this is the sum total of all your life and what it led up to. You're in hell now. You're not going to repent. You're probably just going to be like, okay, I'd rather be here instead.
I mean,
It's a very sad position to be in.
yeah. In our view, it's just going to be like because there are verses where they say like the people of hellfire they're gonna say like uh they're gonna show like some kind of remorse or whatever, but God is just gonna tell them like this is just not sincere. Like you obviously are doing this because you're going to hell. Like you can't do anything right now. This obviously
Yeah.
like you had your chance to repent. It's obviously not gonna be accepted.
And for us, we don't even know if there is remorse in hell. Like we can't even really make that claim because if it's by free choice, then like, wow, okay, there's not gonna be any remorse here.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It's actually I think very inconsistent for atheists who bring up like hell and say it's unjust to then say things like I'd rather be in hell than with God anyway.
Yeah, and that's the double standard. That's the inconsistency because the same atheist that's like hell is unjust, it's the same atheist that's gonna just be like,
I'd
oh,
rather be in hell.
why?
Okay, well
Why
that's why
would?
hell exists.
Yeah, the same atheist is gonna be like, why would God ever force me to be in an eternity with Him? It's like,
He
okay,
won't.
He's not going to. You don't want
He
to
isn't
be.
going to. He will not force you to do that. That's why hell exists. Matter of fact, it's because if you were forced to be for eternity with God, that will be like hell to you because you hate it. So that's why hell is the thing.
It's just stupid. It's just stupid talking points. If like you have, like, let's say you have, let's say there's like an atheist, and he brings this argument that hell's unjust, but in the same
Yeah.
breath he's like, how dare he says this? He says, how dare God force me to have an eternity with Him? What kind of creator would force his creation to spend eternity with Him? Yeah, you're not being
Yeah,
forced.
not a just one, which is why you won't be.
You're not being forced. You can choose to go to hell. Like, okay,
And yeah, I mean, if
what does that
you
got to do with me? That's
if
your
you'd
choice.
rather be in hell, that's very unfortunate, and I wish that you wouldn't say things like that. That's also why it's very unfortunate when even Christians will say things. 'Cause I've heard this. I have heard this. They'll say things like, "Oh, obviously, what I've done. I'm not going to go to be with God. I'm going to hell. So why would I even try? God is not going to forgive me for what I've done." Like.
Yeah.
That is what despair is. Like I've said
Of course,
a few
yeah,
times.
it's going to be that exact thing. We can't
It's
say that
like
either.
because it's a sin against the virtue of hope, like and also the virtue of faith, because you know better than this. You are in a paradigm as a Christian where you believe that God cares so much about his creation that he would become a human and shed his own blood for your sins and what you do. Why would you then turn around and say, oh no, obviously God cannot forgive me?
Yeah, there's a difference between saying he won't and saying he can't. Both of those are problematic. Saying
Both
he
of them are a
won't,
problem.
but if saying
Can't
he
is
won't,
blasphemous.
yeah, we
Won't
affirm we affirm that God is one of the attributes that we assign for God. I think you know, but Ghafur, which basically means like all the most forgiving. Um, we can't say God won't forgive, and if you say he cannot forgive, we assign qadr to God. Like he's capable of all things. Obviously, that's going to be cashed out here as like he's capable of all things that are like possible. He can't
that are logically possible.
create like square circles or whatever.
That is what omnipotence is, right? It's
that's
what is logically possible.
Yeah, that's what's gonna cashed out here as. But if you say no, he can't, then that's just gonna be serious blasphemy. That's gonna be disbelief in our view.
Yeah, that is gonna be disbelief for us too. Because if you say he can't, first of all, you're undermining your own creed. You profess,
yes,
literally your creed. You profess that Christ came in the flesh to die for your sins. Correct? That's what all the Christians profess. Okay, so to then say, oh, well, obviously God doesn't care. God has abandoned us. I don't care about doing anything spiritual anymore because it doesn't matter. God, my sins are too great for God. You're literally just spitting in the face of your own creed. You think that a God who does what the Christian God does is just going to abandon things now? I think the time for that was a long time ago, and he did not do it, according to us. So,
it's just going to be counterintuitive to your own creed, yeah.
It is.
It's just going to be so counterintuitive to your own creed. And it's going to be disbelief in our view as well. If you affirm God can't, like, obviously we affirm God can't do things. Like, God cannot, God cannot create other gods. Like, obviously. But, like, forgiving us is something that he does. To say he can't, like, to say that's not within his power, it's going to be cool for us. It's going to be disbelief.
Not within his power. You're just putting into doubt omnipotence, right? That's heretical, of course.
Obviously.
You can't do stuff like that. And despair, like, it becomes a mortal sin when you basically choose to say, oh, well, because I feel this way, and because this is what I think, I am now going to choose to neglect my spiritual duties. I am not going to take the sacraments anymore. I am not going to go to confession anymore. I am going to give up on prayer because I'm done with this. I don't care about it anymore. Clearly, God doesn't care about me. Like, I don't even know where this mentality comes from.
I don't.
Like, I really want to know where it comes from. Who says things like this? And on one hand, like, I can't be too mean about this because it's a tragic mindset to have. But where does it come from? I really want to know.
Yeah, it's like I can't see it. I just can't see people actually thinking this.
Look,
is like
I understand why, like,
position.
maybe somebody who doesn't even believe in any of the theisms, why they might fall into this kind of despair, and they just accept nihilism, and they're just like, oh well, I'll do whatever the hell I like, and then you end up getting depressed about that.
Yep.
Because it turns out that's not an actually fulfilling worldview. But why would a Christian get into this? Like, how? Yeah. How do you do it?
Yes, like, what leads you to think like this?
I really would love to know where this comes from, because it doesn't come from anything Catholic. We have never, like, taught that.
Definitely not from the Bible.
No, it doesn't come from the Bible. It doesn't come from Catholicism. It doesn't come from, like, so I'm gonna tell you, okay, the model of despair in the New Testament is Judas Iscariot, who killed himself. Okay, is that the kind of guy that you want to be mimicking and imitating?
No, obviously not.
No, obviously not. But that's who you're behaving like if you're if you're acting this way and you don't get this treated.
You don't get it treated.
Yeah, I mean it is. It's a problem.
Definitely.
You gotta get it fixed. Let's see. Do I have anything else? Let's see, chat. Okay, no, I don't. All right, I have been going for 3 hours and 4 minutes. Okay, I think I can.
Yeah. I think wrap up.
So, with all that being said, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the stream. I decided to do this. I was gonna do this stream actually on my birthday tomorrow, but then I figured out that there was gonna be like some plans that my family had, obviously. So, I could have done it in a way that it didn't conflict, but given the fact that this went on for 3 hours, it was probably better that it be done today instead.
Make sure everyone wishes me happy birthday tomorrow.
Yeah, make sure everybody wishes me happy birthday tomorrow because I'm highly important. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The president's gonna wish you happy birthday tomorrow.
That'd be so sick if that actually happened. But in all seriousness, hope you guys have a good 4th of July, whatever you guys are doing today. Don't be like those losers who say, I don't celebrate the 4th of July because America sucks. You're not welcome here if you say stuff like that.
America sucks.
When you say things like, I'm not feeling patriotic this year because of the new administration, you're such a loser if you say
I'm
that.
not feeling patriotic this year because of the new administration. Who says stuff like that?
It's dumb nonsense like that, okay? And listen, if you say things like that, you suck. You're not welcome here. Go mope by yourself, okay?
Go get.
Go cope and seethe and cry.
Cope and mope.
All right. That being said, everybody, I hope everybody has the 4th of July. Keep an eye out for that new content, the series on despair and things like that, and those kinds of sins. Anything else that I have? Just like overall, whatever topics I decide to cover. I was going to do a whole video. I said this way back in the beginning about why I became an atheist. I'm going to do that too at some point.
That's gonna be an interesting video.
It's going to be an interesting video. That's going to be done. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm going to do, so keep an eye out for that. With that being said, everybody, I will see you guys in the next one. God bless.